We've been living in sin so long, all the feels are gone. Fella stopped me on the street last night, said everything's alright. Roller coaster, make it through the day upright. It seems your meal ticket is gone, but life goes on. I could never imagine something better. Yeah, right. Now you're cooking on high heat in the middle of the street. Roller coaster, take me to a better time. Let's go! All sing your high line with the roller coaster of life. Yeah. It's time to all choose your timeline on the roller coaster of life. You seem to easily forget how to place your bet. When everyday life gets you down, you gotta steal the crown. Got to own it. Don't bitch and moan about it, please. God forbid you scrape your knees, and it's nothing to sneeze at. Oh, I've told you over and over again. You gotta get both hands around it and make your own plans. Roller coaster, it's taking over, it's about time. Oh, all sing your high line on the roller coaster of life. You've got to all choose your timeline with the roller coaster of life. I want to go down the rabbit hole, down the rabbit hole of life. And now it's about to leave. Oh, roller coaster. We've been living in sin so long, all the feels are gone. Fella stopped me on the street last night, said everything's alright. Roller coaster, make it through the day upright. It seems your meal ticket is gone, but life goes on. I could never imagine something better. Yeah, right. Now you're cooking on high heat in the middle of the street. Roller coaster, take me to a better time. Let's go! All sing your high line with the roller coaster of life. Yeah. It's time to all choose your timeline on the roller coaster of life. You seem to easily forget how to place your bet. When everyday life gets you down, you gotta steal the crown. Got to own it. Don't bitch and moan about it, please. God forbid you scrape your knees, and it's nothing to sneeze at. Oh, I've told you over and over again. You gotta get both hands around it and make your own plans. Roller coaster, it's taking.
The Buffalo Bills dropped to 0-2 into the preseason following last night's 38-0 loss to the Chicago Bears. Rookie Jordan Hancock left yesterday's contest early with a shoulder injury. No update yet, though, on the severity of that, with the Bills having off today. We'll get more on last night. Sal Capaccio is going to join the show at 4 p.m. And up next for the Bills, they'll wrap up the preseason on Saturday night when they travel to Tampa to take on the Buccaneers. The Browns have their starting quarterback, naming 41-year-old Joe Flacco. The Rams have positive updates for their QB room. Matthew Stafford back to practicing after weeks of dealing with a back injury, and former Texas wide receiver Isaiah Bond officially signed a 3-year, $3 million deal with the Cleveland Browns. Monday Night Football tonight between the Bengals and Commanders in D.C., 8 p.m. kickoff over on ESPN. Speaking of the Bengals, over the weekend, multiple reports had contract talks with All-Pro edge Trey Hendrickson reaching an impasse. The Bengals are now listening to trade offers for the 29-year-old. And the Blue Jays, they are down in Pittsburgh to take on the Pirates at 6:40. Toronto currently holds a 5-game lead in the AL East. And Sports Talk on WGR is presented by Paramount Plus. You can't count on much these days, but you can always count on Sundays with the NFL on CBS with Paramount Plus. Watch your local NFL games live every Sunday on CBS and Paramount Plus all season long. Visit ParamountPlus.com/NFL to get started today. It's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Paddock Chevrolet celebrating 90 years of being your hometown dealership. I'm Zach Jones for WGR Sports Radio 550.
It's Mike Schopp and the Bulldog.
We're up there, and here are the people on the panel, so I'm taking pot shots at Brian Brown. Because, that's what he came to Buffalo for.
It's Mike Schopp.
You literally told E.J. Manuel to his face that he sucked.
And the Bulldog.
I was proud of you. Because I
feel like that's what you're there for.
It's Mike Schopp and the Bulldog.
I know. I couldn't, though. No, I couldn't. I'm better than you.
On WGR Sports Radio 550.
What are we going to do now?
I know.
Hi, everybody. Sorry, I just thought
I've hydrated for you. I'm staying hydrated.
I just thought I'd just make believe outrage. Good afternoon. I'm the Bulldog. Mike Schopp has the day off today. Nate Geary somehow you committed to this before you knew what was going to happen last night. And
that is true.
How post-game coverage anchored by you would go, but nonetheless, you are back today for more, which I'm flattered. And also a little
Only
scared.
For you.
Also a little scared for you.
Yeah, well, listen, I've got some energy drinks in me. I knew what you needed from me today. I woke up with a passion for preseason football.
Okay.
And I'm here to bring the energy.
As I really thought, I mean, this is not a judgment on what I think of your character.
Sure.
But until about 2:30, I just sort of kept looking at my phone waiting for hey, buddy, I got stuck.
I got something else to do.
The job called. I got to go to a meeting. I got a thing.
I have just about anything else to do.
I got to trim my mustache.
I did that this morning.
Something. Anything. Anyway, we're glad you're here. We're glad all of you out there are here. Special hi to the folks watching on the Twitch and on the YouTube there. The bullpen, I'm sure the bullpen's completely level-headed about last night's 38-0 thrashing.
Was it that bad?
Thrashing at the hands of the Bears. This is where I don't have preseason results committed to memory because I think, a pretty well-adjusted, contrary to how it sometimes sounds, adult. Yeah. But one of the first thoughts I had at, I don't know, was it 28-0 at one point last night?
In the first half, yes.
Okay, right. Maybe at that point, I was thinking, okay, I probably can go to bed soon. And didn't this happen last year against the Bears? Mm-hmm. I feel like it kind of did. I waited until the morning to check, and sure enough, there it was, 33-6.
Yep.
Last August in the first preseason game.
They did score, though.
They did score. I didn't bother to look up how that happened. I don't have a yardage comparison from last year's blowout loss at the hands of the Bears in the preseason to this year's blowout loss at the hands of the Bears in the preseason. But I will tell you that if you're the kind to get freaked out, a disparity of 528 yards to 180 yards is the kind of thing that could make you do it. It could get you a little bit wound up, I suppose. I do think Most people recognize that the results don't matter and the score doesn't matter, but within that, and I'm sure that you talked about a lot of this last night, because like one of the only starters to play in the game is a guy that a lot of eyeballs have been on. Sean McDermott called attention to him early last week when he said, like, we got to kind of get him going here.
We're running out of time.
We're running out of time, and and that is Cole Bishop. And that was particularly horrid, I would say, from him. He played 10 snaps, 12 snaps, whatever.
I believe it was 9.
He was on a snap count, and whenever he came out, and Jordan Hancock went in. But, boy, the snaps that Bishop was on the field for were
not good.
Were tough. There's a missed tackle, and then the complete, just utter blown coverage on the first touchdown of the game. Was bad. Damar Hamlin also. If you're worried about safety, you're worried about the starting safeties, you're worried about safety depth, that play is nightmare fuel for you. Again, in the context of a preseason game, don't worry about the results, but those are guys that probably will have to play if they're on the team. Cole Bishop is the presumed starter. Hamlin's his primary backup. I assume if Bishop can't play, it would be Damar Hamlin. Although Jordan Hancock is starting to get a little bit of run there.
Yeah.
But then he got hurt last night.
And then also McDermott kind of just like shut it down last week. He was like, nope.
Yep.
He's not. Nope. Don't even don't talk about him. Don't want to talk about him, basically.
I think if we find out tomorrow that he's relatively unscathed from the shoulder scare that he had last night.
In postgame,
he said he was okay. He did say there's probably an MRI coming before they get back on the practice field, so we'll see if that comes back clean or whatever. But he did say last night he felt pretty good. And I wonder how close they are. Nothing about McDermott saying, like, pump the brakes on Jordan Hancock usage would change the fact that if the kid demonstrates that he is more stable as a rookie than what they've got back there now, that they would start entertaining that idea. Like, I think that's absolutely in the window right now if he's healthy. Job one is get Cole Bishop and Taylor Rapp on the field together, get them working together, and hopefully get them up to speed here in the 3 weeks that remain between now and the Bills' actual regular season opener, where the results do really matter, especially against a team you'll be dueling for the number 1 seed, presumably, in the AFC. The safety play is like by a mile. To me, I don't even know if anything else that happened in the game really worries me to the extent that the safety play did.
So I didn't get angry yesterday because, I was tired. It was late. It was a long day, and I just wanted to be. I knew I was going to be here. I wanted to save a little juice for you. Okay. So if you recall, a couple months back. A couple months back, GM came on the morning show, lit the guys up about talking about receivers all the time, right? It turns out he was right. We should have been lighting him up over the defensive backfield. Because let me just walk through this for a second, because I know, and I'm not going to solely base what I'm going to say on yesterday's performance alone. This is from OTAs to minicamp to here we are in training camp, and already last year, everybody agreed, fans, coaches, the general manager and the organization decided we really liked Damar Hamlin, but we need to be better than what we were with Damar Hamlin in the lineup last year. And they did so by signing a guy who's not even in consideration of making this roster in Derek Forrest, who, he started a couple of games in Washington and blah, 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 the fit, and he'll be at least a good. No, he's not even in the picture for special teams.
Right.
So he's out of the picture. You have your second-round pick in Cole Bishop, who could not beat out Damar Hamlin last year as, he'll beat him out this time. Well, he hasn't. I mean, let's just call it what it is. He has not beaten him out because the same issues that kept him from actually competing for the position last year are now keeping him off the field this year. So for me,
that's health, obviously.
It's health.
Right.
And frankly, when he's been on the field, it hasn't looked that good. He's looked out of place. Yesterday, I don't know who tweeted it, but I was like, this is what I'm thinking, which is he doesn't look like a guy that's ready to walk into a starting lineup right now for a team fighting for a Super Bowl spot. He looks like a developmental prospect. which is not good for your second-round pick and a guy that you have staked your entire secondary in the back end around with no real proof of concept to do it. So for me, going out and re-signing DeMar Hamlin and signing Derek Forrest, who again is not going to make the 53-man roster and probably won't make the practice squad either, and ignoring the fact that you wanted to get better than DeMar. He's a great story, and he's a great human, and he's a great teammate, and he was going to make the 53-man roster. But there's a really good chance he's going to start some or a lot or maybe all of your football games at safety again, which means you did not upgrade at all at the safety position this year. Point blank. And that's not even to really get into the conversation of this isn't just a conversation about safety. It's also a conversation about cornerback too. And their best move was, by the way, I just feel like, the depth in Dorian Strong had a tough day yesterday. Their outside corners out, Dane Jackson, tough day yesterday. Like, I look at this and say, man, they were banking a lot on their first round developmental corner, by the way, to simply walk in and start. And it's a great story that Trey White's played well in training camp and has sort of gotten the de facto look there. But he was the fifth corner on the Baltimore Ravens after getting cut last year by the Rams. Your two moves were to bring a guy everybody agreed they needed to get better at, and a guy that you had to cut because his injuries had piled up. So I'm at the point now where I'm like, should I be panicking the fact that this defensive backfield did not get better and they're relying on their defensive front to get more consistent pressure to help them on the back end? And their only answer to that is to go and get a guy who hasn't played 16 games in 4 years in Joey Bosa. So, yeah, I'm panicking a little bit on the defensive side of the ball because this was the offseason. They were supposed to be a lot better on defense. And other than Matt Milano being healthy for a full 17-game slate, where's that happening?
I suppose.
So yeah, I'm panicking a little.
Yeah. Okay, I appreciate the juice. I mean, it's good to have. I don't think if you were a caller, I would want to talk you down necessarily. I think these are all valid concerns. The Hairston thing is shelved for the time being, and
maybe he'll be great.
Maybe this year will go like Cole Bishop's rookie year went, where he never really caught up because of the reps he missed in the summer due to injuries. And so, and like the shine of the Tre'Davious White story, which was one of the brightest stories of the early part of camp, I don't think that's entirely extinguished.
No, I agree.
He didn't play yesterday, obviously. The Giant game didn't go great, but I still feel, of all the things you talked about, I still feel like
fine.
Okay, fine.
Yeah.
In the show's part of like, fine. Would I like to be better? Yeah,
yes.
Fine. If the safety play is what it was last year, I think the chances of your defense improving in any substantial way are pretty limited. I just don't think it's going to happen. I think that's where they really need something to change because they got by. Talk about fine. They got by with Hamlin.
Yes.
But they really didn't get much impact. And
Rapp is
you want something there.
Top 20-ish player at his position. I mean, this isn't Micah Hyde or Jordan Poyer in their heyday. The first two moves this head coach made when he became a first-time NFL head coach was to get safeties.
Right.
More than anything else. They didn't worry about the quarterback first. They said the first two moves we needed to make to be successful is get two safeties back here that we can trust, and we're going to find them, and we're going to sign them, and then we're going to extend them, and they're going to be the best part of our secondary for the next 7 years. And for them to not really acknowledge the fact that what we all agree is that we need to get better here, but we're just going to go with the guy because he's a second-round pick, I think flies in the face of how this organization does everything else. Earned, not given. Well, then what has Cole Bishop done to have earned you not getting a legitimate veteran to push him in this instance?
Right, somebody that could at least, I don't want to cut it too fine, be viewed as, and in reality, be an upgrade from Hamlin in case Bishop doesn't hit.
Yeah.
Right? Because I don't know what, other than the fact that he's studious and has great athletic traits, you don't have any proof that he can do the job at a high level. You really don't. I don't think that's unfair.
I'm last night, the one thing I said to Zach last night, but I even like on the way home listening to, CBS Sports Radio, I'm thinking to myself, like, you know what I wish I could know is if Malachi Starks was on the board for the Bills, if they make that pick. I mean, the Ravens have 5 first-round picks in their defensive backfield. The Bills have none. And that doesn't necessarily have to be, Tre'Davious White now, and right. Max Harrison. Okay. And that doesn't necessarily need to be the mark of you've got a great secondary, you've got all these first-round picks. But that's an organization that puts a lot into it on the defensive side of the defensive backfield. They already
have one of the best young, sort of all-around versatile players at safety. I'm going to use finger quotes for Kyle Hamilton here because he's a chess piece that moves all around.
Right.
Just part of the reason I had such a crush on Nick Emenwuri in the draft process. But that did not stop Baltimore from drafting Malachi Starks anyways.
Yep.
It's the best player on the board. I'm not going to worry about. We'll find ways to get all these guys on the field, and I trust that they will. I have a feeling.
I would think that they will too. And they signed, what's his name in the offseason? They're traded for the kid from Green Bay. It's a head case. What's his name? Come on. The corner from Green Bay.
Jair
Alexander.
Right.
Yeah. And another former first-round pick. So, that's a team that's like, hey, we've got a lot of great pieces. Let's continue adding. And the Bills like, well, let's go with the familiar guy. 2 familiar guys. Dane Jackson, who, left and it didn't work out in a more expanded role in Carolina. And Tre'Davious White, obviously, it's a great story, and I'm glad Trey's back, and it gave them that, break glass in case of emergency. And it is something to me that he's played good enough to even be in the conversation. Again, part of it's because your first-round pick got hurt. But, I'm sitting here and thinking, well, what if Max Harrison ends up having a Cole Bishop-type season? That's not necessarily your worst-case scenario, but it's pretty close to it. And, I just don't know how you can fully depend that your front seven's going to be substantially better with a 3rd-round pick in Landon Jackson, a 2nd-round pick in, TJ Sanders, who I like a lot coming from the inside, and Joey Bosa. I don't think that is substantially better than the lineup that they threw out there last year. And they couldn't get off the field in 3rd down, and that's my biggest concern about this year because it reared its head yesterday. It just can't get off the field on 3rd down. And that was arguably their biggest issue defensively. The turnovers kept them respectable. If sort of goes back to the mean, which I would probably bet that it does.
Well, they've been top 5 most years of McDermott's time here in takeaways. What I'm more worried about when it comes to the turnover thing is the offense not being as fortunate to hang on to any ball they fumbled like they did last year. I mean, just incredible fumble luck on offense. Not throwing picks is, by design. Josh Allen got better in that area. I just want to give him some credit there. But I'm worried that, a half a dozen more turnovers on the offensive side of the ball could really mitigate if you continue to be one of the best teams in the league at taking the ball away. I just think it's not going to be I wouldn't expect it to be as much of an advantage in another season. I just think they had a lot of good fortune there. So I'm sort of middling the conversation about the turnovers because a lot of people will tell you it's not sticky and regression to the mean and all that. But year over year, the Bills have been excellent at it. I don't think that's all just an accident.
No, I agree.
But hanging on to and having the ball bounce your way so often when it's on the ground, there is luck in that. I don't think you can deny it. So I think that's an area to be concerned about if that's what you're depending on to keep your defense afloat. And that really was what their story was last year. And so all of the assets poured into it are what's the design of that? The design of that is to, get you off the field in more conventional ways than taking the ball away and having to, depend on that. And
force a bloody punt.
Yeah, I'm bummed out. Like Jackson had a couple of good pass rush reps yesterday, but I feel like most of camp he has not been a name that anybody is ready to tell you about. Looks ready to be a contributor. At this point, again, there's 3 weeks between now and the opener, but I feel like he's a candidate to not get a jersey on game day. I mean, he's certainly not a guy that I'm worried about not making the team as a third-round pick, but I don't know about him playing.
I sort of feel the same about Solomon, is I guess a little bit of me had some hope that there was some juice there, and that could be a guy that maybe flashes for you and forces a veteran like A.J. Epinesa off the field or off the roster entirely. At this point, I don't I don't see how you can move on from A.J. Epinesa. He's reliable. He may not give you the double-digit sack numbers and a guy that, is an imposing figure, but he's reliable. And he's going to get in there. He's going to get his 5.5 sacks, 6.5 assists, whatever. I look at the defense, and it doesn't look like that many changes for how much they've invested in the draft, how much they've, in Joey Bosa and whatever. Like, I look at it and say, it doesn't look a lot different from last year. And maybe Ryan Nielsen and a healthy Matt Milano, maybe these are things that.
And Cole Bishop being on the field with actual other starters.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, there's we do recognize, I think everyone who's got any kind of critique about this game realizes, like, the Bears poured a lot more into it.
No doubt about
than the Bills did. I mean, the Bills played one starter on defense and one presumed starter on offense.
It reminded me of the Pittsburgh game a couple years ago.
Right. In Palmer and Bishop, of course, we already talked about on defense. Bears, like, it's sort of, here's Caleb Williams, here's Ben Johnson, here's our new offense. Like, I wouldn't be surprised. I don't think anybody's going to put their name on this, but I wouldn't be surprised if they actually game planned a little. Just to
I'm sure they did a
get
little.
their offense on track. That's a whole new production there, and you want to, get some confidence going and get the fans excited about the process and all of that. So, it was not apples and apples in the matchup. But again, the one guy that the Bills felt needed to play in the game to get valuable reps had a terrible day. And now it was, again, it wasn't even a dozen reps. So, what do you want to do with it? Would you want him to be better on those? Of course you want him to be better on those plays, Bishop. But it's also not your full complement of dudes. But what even sort of flies in the face of that is that a lot of those reps, Deion Walker played a lot, DJ Sanders played a lot, Landon Jackson played a lot, and they couldn't muster a stop. Now, that is ones against twos and threes. Admittedly, I'm referring to Jackson as a 3 for now until further notice. So, a mismatch to some degree, but an opportunity for guys to shine and show they belong absolutely did not happen.
Tyson Bagent looked fantastic. Against the backup, or with his backup offensive line, and Tyler Scott. Right?
Who's that now?
Yeah. I was going to work that into the show today. Right. We liked him a lot in the draft process. Wide receiver from Cincinnati, very fast. We were wondering why everybody kept,
passing on him.
Yeah, and then he just kind of stinks. But he had a good game yesterday. Jordan Hancock, to me, I think is probably a name that's not going to go away. Because out of the guys to start training camp, he was not the guy getting the most talked about. It was Dorian Strong. Wow. I remember first couple of days of camp, I was at training camp that first Sunday. NFL body. Right. This guy's got a future in the NFL as a boundary corner. He looked lost yesterday. I mean, a couple of really borderline embarrassing reps yesterday, I thought. Jordan Hancock came in right after the first series. He's making plays in the run game, flying into the box as a run defender. Comes from a pedigree at Ohio State. But again, I guess where my concern is if we're all having the conversation of should we really start having a conversation? That's a fifth-round pick.
Yeah. It's a little.
And they got saved 3 years ago with a 7th-round pick or a 6th, whatever Benford was. They got saved by him because Elam was a disaster from the very beginning. So, maybe they get saved here and Jordan Hancock will step in and all of a sudden and they're cross-training him. I'll tell you what, they haven't been the last 2 weeks. He's been explicitly at safety. I think the same conversations we're having right now are probably happening. Can we trust Cole Bishop to be healthy? And if we can't, we have to try to find something to be even
ramp this up.
Nominally better than DeMar Hamlin.
Yeah. He did end up playing, he got hurt playing nickel corner because they didn't have any depth at nickel corner.
And Codrington.
After they got Codrington out of there, which, again, is an example of, Codrington's covering DJ Moore.
That happens.
That is not a matchup you're going to win. Right?
No.
It's not. So, that's like one arm tied behind your back type stuff. To some extent, I'm exaggerating a little. I don't think really that much.
No.
So, that, again, mitigates the result and the amount of panic I think you should have about the result. But, in a more, micro analysis, I just think any Bills fan today, is say, hey, boy, tough game. Yeah, it's preseason. Yeah, but Bishop. Like, that's got to be, right? That is absolutely the conversation.
It was the conversation in pre. Like, I was listening to these guys come in, and he goes, I just want to just make a play. Shut us up. Like, just like fan the flames from the perspective of like, you're who everyone's looking at. Just do something so that we stop talking about it. And instead, it's just been ramped up.
Yep. 803-0550 is the number. Any reaction, all reaction to last night's thrashing in the preseason of the Bills by the Chicago Bears is welcomed. 803-0550, 38-0 was the score. If you need to hear it again, we're talking a lot about the secondary and specifically Cole Bishop, but really anything goes. All three of the other quarterbacks played in this game and didn't do really much of anything to write home about. Some of the depth pieces, again, you can overreact to the depth. You're like, oh, where's the depth? But when it's all on the field at once, as opposed to like all guy having to step in and play next to all the rest of the starters, that can be a very different scenario. But nonetheless, pouring over it with Nate Geary. I'm the Bulldog. We've got a couple of guests lined up today. Of course, Sal Capaccio. He'll be with us at the top of this coming hour, so 4 o'clock for Sal. And then Ryan Talbot from upstate New York and the Shout podcast will be with us at 5 to offer, both of them going to offer their perspectives on last night's game and just how much of a problem the Bills may have in the defensive backfield, particularly at safety. Again, 803-0550 is the number. He is Nate Geary in for Mike today. I'm the Bulldog, and you're listening to WGR.
in the practice the other day and then tonight. So with that, I wanted to get him some more reps. He needs more experience. He needs more reps. That's where you work out some of these things, and that's how you build the callousness, and comes from experience. So there's nothing more important for him than the experience that he got tonight and then moving forward. But even tonight, he was on a rep count of roughly 10 to 12 plays there. I think that's about what he had.
All right, it's Bills head coach Sean McDermott specifically talking about safety Cole Bishop, who started the game and was victimized, and then his snap count came due, and he left the game, and that was it. But a tough night for him, and there's a lot of attention on him. We spent a lot of even the first segment of the show talking about him specifically and what it could mean if he does not elevate and come through here, because the Bills' defense, I think. It's fair to say, I don't have the rankings year over year sitting in front of me, but last year was, I think, it was the biggest struggle that a Bills defense has had since Sean McDermott took over. Maybe the 18 season was awful too. They had a tough season that year. Josh as a rookie, going to put that one aside. But since they've been, the team here that they ultimately became, they've been a very strong unit on that side of the ball. But last year was tough. And I think safety play was a big part of it. I mean, they got through the year. They still won, they won their 13 games. They were that close to getting to the Super Bowl. Again, even with that safety play, that wasn't, anywhere near, maybe mid of the league. I don't even know if that might be a compliment. So it's an area to look for them to get better at, and the early returns so far don't seem good. So pouring over that. Of course, anything else you watched from last night's game is fair enough to bring up today as well. Nate Geary is in for Mike today. I am the Bulldog. 803-0550 is the phone number, and I say we fire it up. Larry is first up this segment. Hi, Larry. Thank you for calling. You're on the air here on WGR.
Hey, guys. Thanks for taking my call. Nate, I got to tell you, you hit the nail on the head, brother, for me. And I called Jeremy and Joe this morning to bring up this point. Cincinnati is they're looking for an impact player and a pick. So originally I brought up Rousseau, but Jeremy explained to me the dead cap hit in year 2 is just out of control, so that's not an option. So then I would really love for us to try to move Epinesa. And I'm willing to go, well, obviously it's not my pick, but I would be, if I was Brandon, willing to go as high as a number 2 pick for the reasons you mentioned, Nate. I am terrified about the safety play, and our cornerback question with the injury and with everything going on with Trey really was not addressed. And you bring in Bosa, which, heck, if he's healthy, fantastic. But you got to look at the facts. You got to look at the data. Data suggests he might be on the field half the season. So my question is, how are you going to stop Joe Burrow and company? How are you going to stop Mahomes? How are you going to stop Hurts? Offensively, we didn't turn the ball over that much last year. But remember, our downfield passing really slowed down. We had a lot of short plays, short passes, safe passes. I really want to see Josh open it up and be more Josh-like, which is going to produce probably more turnovers. And like you said, we had a lot of lucky bounces last year. So I'd love to see a move where Hendrickson to shore up our push, because if we don't get a push up front, guys, I have a feeling we're in for a long defensive year.
All right, Larry, thank you for the call. Appreciate it. How much do you want to invest in talking about Hendrickson as an idea? Is it realistic?
I think it's a 15% chance of being a realistic thing. I think with the Bills, the cap space, I don't see it as a real. The thing that I guess where I'm at is I just, as much as I like Trey Hendrickson, the idea of Trey Hendrickson, I'm not sure he actually solves the core issue here, which is just that, on the back end, that's the concern. And you can try to cover it up with relentless pass rush, and maybe that is the answer. But, his point about stopping Mahomes and stopping Burrow and stopping Hurts and stopping Lamar Jackson.
Thank you for mentioning Lamar Jackson.
Those are fair questions to ask. And listen, the Bengals are kind of, I would assume, asking themselves the same questions, right? Like, well, we signed all three of our top offensive weapons, but I didn't know it meant we weren't going to have anyone on defense. That's kind of what it sounds like it means. So, I don't know. I'm at the point where I want to echo the coach's words, which is we're running out of time. It's the 18th of August. They play real football in like 3 weeks. So, to me, waiting around until, roster cut down after all the preseason games are going, and then you've got 9 days between then and your first game to say, all right, you know what, Justin Simmons, we are going to bring you in, and now you got 9 days to onboard. This is our plan. I don't like that plan. If you are as concerned as I think they should be about the back end at safety, a move really soon makes sense. Kyle Duggar, they're talking about in New England. He was playing in the fourth quarter yesterday. I don't know. Maybe they won't trade you in division, but explore that. They should really very immediately start exploring options.
Yeah.
Whether it's a free agent. What I don't want to get to is we're 9 days before the opener on Sunday Night Football, and we're talking about can Justin Simmons catch up in time to be out there and have a meaningful impact at safety.
How decent an idea is that? I saw you.
Don't know.
Maybe during the game, I saw you tweet
I think it was after the touchdown.
There's Nate getting ready for post game. Because from 20,000 feet above, it's pretty stark that he's not on a team yet. Right? Anytime there's a guy available on the street, you're not trading for somebody, he's just out there. Why is that?
Yeah.
Okay, from his end, he's waiting for the right situation, and maybe a team like the Bills would very much be considered the right situation, considering, what their expectations are. But I also worry that maybe, sort of like Amari Cooper, everyone's looking at him going, no more.
There's no question the best, he's not an all-pro anymore. But the thing you have to ask yourself is, can he come in? Can you trust him? Is he going to stay healthy? And he's definitely probably waiting out. I know for sure he's walked in, he's visited teams, and they haven't. Same with Marcus Williams. He's coming off, I believe, an Achilles injury in Baltimore last year, but he was one of their best defensive backs. He's still a free agent. I think he visited Pittsburgh last week, and they went with Chuck Clark or something. But but that's what you're dealing with on the 18th of August.
That's what you have to pick from if you want to do something outside of your room right now.
Or you go find a guy that you're high on another roster. That's what you have pro scouts for. They've got boards of players that are fringe roster players, or hey, this guy could be the odd man out in a situation. But I'm just at the point where I don't love that that's where we've gotten, and I don't feel they're in a spot where they have the luxury of being able to wait another week and a half to pluck a guy off of another team's 53 or something, or a fringe roster player. And even then, what are we talking about then? I mean, we're talking about a guy that isn't good enough to play somewhere else that you're bringing into hopes that you can get more out of him in your system. Listen, it's not an ideal situation to be in. I think that there's a place where you have to sit when you're talking about, anytime you're talking about the preseason. To be clear, I'm not fired up about yesterday's game solely. Yesterday's game, to me, was the candle on top of the icing on top of the cake, which was, I was concerned about this in the summer. Okay, let's see Derek Forrest. Well, Derek Forrest is nowhere. This is not just a one-day recency bias panic.
Right.
This is, okay, now I sort of feel like I have to be panicked after yesterday.
Bob is next up on WGR. Thanks for calling, Bob. You're on the air.
Yeah, I was at the game last night, and I'm in panic mode. The Bears had their first stringers in there for a couple series, but after that, it was both sides was second, third, and fourth stringers, and the Bears wanted to play, and our guys didn't look like they were fighting for jobs. It was quite unimpressive. I liked Hancock. I liked their punter. I'm a Terrell Shavers fan. But outside of that, I don't know if I have much more positives to point out.
Well, it really does say it all when the second player you highlight out of your mouth is the punter.
He did get a lot of work. He got a lot of work.
That is nowhere you want to be. It's like, I thought the punter. No,
it's not good.
I don't want to be there. Yeah, I mean, and even like Tyrell Shavers, there's special teams that folds into that.
Yep.
Because no one on offense really. I mean, he had the biggest play of the game. It was a 22-yard reception. So I mean, golf clap, But I do feel like we were talking about this late in the week here last week. It feels like it's getting to like Elijah Moore, Curtis Samuel, Shavers. Two of those three make it, and one of them's going to not make it.
Did you hear the coach talk about Curtis Samuel and then in the same sentence using special teams?
I don't think I caught that.
I don't know if it was the coach or if it was the GM, but when you're starting to talk about him, if he can start playing special teams, I think that's the guy. That's the guy on the outside looking in right now. Can't stay healthy. And to me, I talked about Joey Bosa last segment. To me, that might be the guy that's most important to this whole thing because they have not had a whole lot of luck bringing in impact players in free agency. They just haven't. They've struck out largely. And Josh Palmer's in this conversation, too. I think he needs to have an impact. He was playing yesterday with Mike White. I don't know what was up with that. Maybe he's just a guy that needs reps.
Get him reps is what McDermott said after. Yeah.
But, they need Bosa to hit. Because I think they need a free agent to hit on this team.
Yeah, someone to move
and their entire core. And listen, this is to be applauded. Their entire core that they just re-signed to 4-year contracts were all drafted players. And bravo, that's not nothing. But the conversation around these first and second round picks, it's not going anywhere.
803-0550 is the number. Nate Geary's in for Mike Schopp. I am the Bulldog. Sal Capaccio coming your way at 4. And Ryan Talbot, Syracuse.com, Upstate.com, the Shout podcast will be our guest at 5. I am the Bulldog, and you're listening to WGR. Grooving our way through a Monday afternoon here on WGR. Thanks for tuning in. Mike Schopp has the day off today. He will be back tomorrow. Nate Geary sitting in his stead. I am the Bulldog. Zach Jones along for the ride as well. 803-0550 is the phone number. A lot of Bills conversation off of the 38-0 thrashing at the hands of the Chicago Bears last night in Chicago in preseason game number 2. Sal Capaccio joins the fun at the top of the hour. Ryan Talbot from upstate New York coming your way at 5. For now, it's just us hanging. 803-0550 again is the number. And Jay is first up this segment. Hi, Jay. Thank you for calling. You're on the air here on WGR.
Hey, guys. How you doing?
Good. Thank you.
Good. First of all, I don't really put too much stock in preseason at all, ever. I think I'm a little bit more into it because of Hard Knocks this year.
Okay. Well, that's fine. Look, I think not putting stock in it is one thing. Being worried, I think these things aren't mutually exclusive. I don't care what the score is, but there are pockets of the team that you're looking for some signs. You know they're counting on a guy like Bishop to really take a step and solidify and elevate even the safety position. And last night was bad. It's a small sample size. He didn't really get a chance to redeem himself, but it was bad.
Oh, totally agree. And that's one of the things I do like about preseason. You can focus in on a single player here and there, not really worry about too much about the game per se. But I don't want to beat the dead horse with Bishop. My concern was TJ Sanders. I focused in on him a few plays, and he just got destroyed. He was getting pushed 3 yards back. Landon Jackson, conversely, getting great push. I don't think the guy has a pass rush move in his repertoire yet. Hopefully he can develop that.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of giving Andreessen a pass because the guys in front of him didn't do much at all, if anything. And just wanted to see if you guys noticed what I noticed. And
I think I feel like the rookie interior players, both Sanders and Walker, especially Walker, I feel like has flashed physical dominance rushing the passer.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure. I think he's pretty raw as far as run stopping technique, taking on blockers, that kind of thing. And Sanders maybe similarly. Like I feel like both of them. And like, of course, all things are important, but I want guys that are going to be able to get to the quarterback from inside other than Ed Oliver on this team, and they represent some hope of that, but they have to help upgrade the interior run defense too, and that was not in evidence really at all yesterday, and I agree on Landon Jackson. That's a player athletically. I'm very excited about his profile, his size, his wingspan. I think it was pretty well known that he was going to need to develop some variety in his pass rush skills. He had one rep that I saw that I think he won cleanly with some good handwork and got around the edge and forced the quarterback out of there. It still turned into a completion, though. He didn't get there. He lost his footing as he won around the edge, and the quarterback escaped, and he couldn't catch him. That's the best I can tell you from that guy. So
he looks like a player that's still really – I was listening to Brownie and Tasker on the way in, and I took away the same thing they did, which is especially week 1 against the Giants, but yesterday he looked a little bit more comfortable. Looks like a player that's got a lot going through his head. Is not reading and reacting. He's thinking about a lot. I got to disagree on the TJ Sanders thing. I think he's looked very good as a pass rusher. I thought he made a couple of really strong plays. The Jackson Dart touchdown. He is one step away from absolutely depleting it. So, I'm okay with where they are in their interior defensive line. Sean McDermott mentioned both of those players by name yesterday. Their plan was to play the first half. They played into the fourth quarter because those are guys that need the reps. I'm not listen, they have spent a lot of resources on the defensive line. I'm not worried about the D-line. I'm just not. I can't. If I'm worried about the D-line with how many resources they've put into it, we got a much deeper issue. I can't be worried about it. There's other stuff to really be concerned about to me.
Louis is next up. Hi, Louis. Thank you for calling. You're on the air here on WGR.
Hey, Bulldog. How's it going, man?
Good, man. Nice to hear from you.
Yeah, you too. Listen, I'm really worried. I agree with you guys 100% wholeheartedly. Hope Bishop one thing he's hurt, but another thing when he gets a chance to play, he looked awful yesterday. I mean, he looked totally lost, and we just cannot have that. The season's going to open up, and I agree with you, Bulldog, 100%. We got to go out and get somebody now, not like in a week or 2 weeks, like right now. We got to get somebody. If that is our Achilles heel, we are in trouble. We need somebody that's going to cover that back end of that defense. And like you guys said, defense I'm not too concerned about. We invested a lot. Just talk about Trey Henderson, whatever. We don't need that. We need a starting safety so badly, and we got to address that immediately.
All right, just to clarify, Nate's the one really making the case for adding a body there. I want to say I'd be surprised.
I'd be
if they
surprised
did something,
too.
sure. But Nate's the one with the clamor on that end of things. Not that I'm happy with how things looked yesterday, but I don't know. Like I'm being tested on Bishop. I loved the draft pick.
Yeah, me too.
I was really excited about him coming in. Last year just sort of unraveled, and this year has started very much the same. I guess the best you can do, Louie, and anyone else out there, you, Nate, myself even, that are expressing concern about Bishop, is that he just returned to practice on Friday.
Mm-hmm.
So, but
it's not just us that are losing patience.
No, I know.
The coaches.
I know. I think he's, yeah.
Did he light the fuse a little bit?
I felt like there was something that he said last night that for the first time made me feel like Hancock has a chance or somebody else that's not here. Yeah. He said we got to look at it, or just the way he phrased it made me think they're more nervous than maybe even we are.
Sure.
About it, which might be saying a lot. Let's hit a timeout and get Sal Capaccio's thoughts on last night. He was there like he always is, watching from the sidelines. That's coming up right after this. Nate Geary's in for Mike. I'm the Bulldog, and this is WGR.
The Buffalo Bills dropped to 0-2 in the preseason following last night's 38-0 loss to the Chicago Bears. Rookie Jordan Hancock did leave yesterday's contest early with a shoulder injury. No update yet on the severity of that, with the Bills having off today. We'll get more on last night, though. Sal Capaccio, he's going to join the show next. And for the Bills, they will wrap up their preseason on Saturday night when they travel to Tampa to take on the Buccaneers. The Browns have their starting quarterback. They have named 41-year-old Joe Flacco. Rams QB Matthew Stafford back practicing today after weeks of missing, dealing with a back injury. Former Texas wide receiver Isaiah Bond officially signs his 3-year, $3 million deal with the Browns. And Dolphins running back Devon Achane not going to practice this week. He's dealing with a calf injury. And we do have one more preseason game for Week 2. It is Monday Night Football, Bengals and Commanders in D.C., 8 p.m. kickoff over on ESPN. While in baseball, Blue Jays down in Pittsburgh to take on the Pirates at 6:40. Toronto currently holds a 5-game lead in the AL East. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Paddock Chevrolet, celebrating 90 years of being your hometown dealership. I'm Zach Jones for WGR Sports Radio 550.
All right, well, this is the very first time I've ever been watching the YouTube feed when the countdown clock that G has up there during the commercial break for Sal's appearance. Have you seen this?
No.
I don't know if this happens for other regularly scheduled guests or if it's just a Sal value-added feature. Yeah. It is just there's a little countdown clock up in the upper left-hand corner ticking down the minutes and seconds, and it's a little picture, a little, Sal's face in a little circle. And it got to 0. Nothing happened. Like bells and whistles didn't go off and like confetti, but still I'd never seen it reach 0. So
Sal's on the station 14 times a day, so I feel like if he didn't have like a little emblem, it would feel like maybe we weren't doing enough.
And this is only 13, so I don't know what you're doing, Sal, but maybe Zach will be looking for you on the nightcap tonight. Anyway, welcome back from Chicago. I heard some of you this morning because I was out running around the city a bit. A tough one, to say the least. I mean, it's not even really the score. It's more some individual performances that really were tough. Most notably, we spent the whole hour, I think, talking about Cole Bishop, Sal.
Yeah, good afternoon to you guys. It was tough because it was just not the kind of performance you want to see from individual players, from units, from position groups, regardless of who is on the field. And whether it's the ones against the twos or whatever, you have to play better than you did yesterday, and I'll sound like a coach or player when I say this, but that's just not the standard. You have to play and be up to your standard, which is better than that and higher than that. And it's understandable if the Bears' first team offense and first team defense, beats the Bills' second team offense and second team defense, but the way they beat them, and then after that having the twos against the twos and the threes against the threes just continue to go that way. Not the kind of performance the Buffalo Bills were looking for, not the kind of performance Sean McDermott was looking for, certainly. And to a man in the locker room, not the kind of a performance they were looking for. And I'll say that, I know it's preseason. I get it. And, you walk around and you talk to these guys, and they understand that doesn't impact their record. But I think they felt a sense of that, a lot of that, which is they need to be better next week. That was not the way they want. That was not the performance they wanted to put on film.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder if I don't know if it rises to the level of embarrassing. Just because you've got guys that are trying to make an impression, make a football team, in a depth capacity. And yeah, when it evened out, of course, the ones against the twos, all right, I accept that. I also accept that the Bears would have poured a little more, maybe a lot more into the game, considering they're at home. It's a new coach with a new system and a really hot former number 1 overall pick just last year, quarterback. You want to kind of get some momentum going, get everyone on the team believing, if not the fan base believing that we're going to make some headway here. So, it's crooked to start. I think we can all understand and appreciate that. But yeah, the rest of the game, the other 45 minutes or more of the game, I think are as big an alarm bell as I can remember in a preseason.
For sure. And Sean McDermott obviously talked about that after the game, and he was asked a few questions. One was specifically about Cole Bishop, and he talked about the safety position. You guys referenced, something he said about that. We can get into all that. But, you only have one more preseason game left here. And then it's go time against the Baltimore Ravens, by the way, on Sunday Night Football here in Buffalo. And, yes, you have – now, if you want to look at it this way, you could be a little bit more feel better about it if you say, well, it's still 3 weeks away, right? You have 3 weeks to get things right and get on the practice field, clean up what you need to clean up. And last year, the Bears beat the Bills in preseason game 1, 33-6.
Right.
And it was very similar where they clearly last year game planned. They had a lot of things they wanted to feel confident about. And there's nothing wrong with that. If that's the way they want to approach it, that's fine. Every team wants to approach it their own way. But you have 3 weeks left here to get ready, but only one more game. And it really – you wonder now, how do you approach that game and what you want to see? Because to me, you got to have those guys go back out there and perform again. I did the Always Game Day in Buffalo podcast with Matt Bove this morning, and one of the things that he brought up was, does Sean send a message now and say, well, you know what, the starters have to play a little bit on Saturday? I think that's a bridge too far. I don't think that's going to happen. And I also would tell you, I don't know what message that's sending then. They weren't on the field for this.
Right.
The guys who were on the field were the guys that need to go out there and show that they can perform. Chris Tabor, the special teams coach, said to us a few weeks ago, he said the goal is that if somebody doesn't make the team here, they make the team somewhere. That's what you're trying to do. Well, what you did last night, what you put on film, doesn't help anyone get to that particular spot, right? So I think that everybody has a collective investment here, whether that's personally in trying to make the NFL roster or making the Buffalo Bills better.
Sal, how worried do you think they are internally about Bishop at this point?
I think they're worried about where the position stands right now on, what day is today? August 18th. And what that translates to September 7th. I still think they believe in Cole Bishop as a player who's going to be a good player for them. I think the problem is what has happened here over going back to last training camp and now in this training camp. And it's just that he has not been on the field enough to have these reps to get in a position where they feel comfortable that he knows everything he's supposed to do and be able to do it. I don't think there's a long-term, pull the chute on this guy after a year and a half, type of worry on Cole Bishop. We've seen players throughout, especially in the McDermott era here, we've seen players go into year 2 and even through year 2, I don't know. And then year 3, they become a little bit better, right? That's kind of been the jump for a lot of players, been year 2 to year 3. I don't think there's any worry like that. I think they believe they have a guy that's going to be a starter for them in this league. But I think right now, with go time coming up here, I think there's some worry here, guys. They have the Baltimore Ravens coming to town, the team that just beat in the AFC Championship, the Bills beat in the AFC divisional round, last year, who really moved the ball on them and threw some big passes, long passes down the field in the snow. Right now, you don't have the ability to combat that with what you're looking at on the field and what you've seen.
Yeah, Terrell Bernard comes to mind as a guy that in year 2, he was being asked to step up and take the place of Tremaine Edmonds, and he missed all of camp. I remember being worried about it all summer, and the regular season got here, he got on the field, and there's been no looking back to such an extent that he just got a nice contract extension in this offseason. So it has happened that a player we would have spent a reasonable amount of time wringing our hands over in the summer missed time. We're worried about it not being a stable position or even a position of strength for the team, and it turned out that it was fine. So, or better than that even. We'll see if Bishop can do the same thing. I mean, I do think, in fairness, as much as he's eaten a lot of it today for that performance that was only a handful of snaps in the game, I think it is fair to recognize that he just returned to practice on any kind of a full-time basis on Friday, right?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, Friday was really the first time he'd been on the field in a team capacity in quite a while. So, yeah, I think that's right. I'm looking right now. If I remember, Taron Johnson was in this boat. After 2 years, he had some injuries. I'm looking, he had started 7 games his second year. In fact, and then Taron Johnson he had lost his spot to Cam Lewis for a quick minute, right? In a game, and then he came back in. His third year is when he really started to come alive, Taron Johnson. There's been examples of that. So I don't think there's any long-term panic on Cole Bishop. But yes, in the short term right now, getting ready here, yeah, this guy has not practiced. He needs to be on the field. Now, when Sean McDermott talks about time on task, communication. That's exactly right. He needs that with Taylor Rapp. He needs that with everybody on the defense, though. The touchdown that was given up, that's pieces of communication. Watch who he's playing with, what they're looking at. It's also, there's no game planning. We know that. I think, and I would probably lean towards they wouldn't play it the same way, right? If you're playing a regular season, there's some things about that play where maybe there's some matchups the Bills wouldn't want in that particular situation. But that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter when it comes to you're not, near your guy close enough, or you're not making a tackle. Those are things that you should be able to do still when you're on the field. So yeah, the communication piece when it comes to the entire defense has got to be better from Cole Bishop, and the physical play has to be better from Cole Bishop. And the other part of it is Taylor Rapp has had some injuries, right? And when he's been on the field, he's made some plays for the Buffalo Bills, but I don't think anyone is super secure right now in Taylor Rapp and his position there. And then where do you go from there? You have DeMar Hamlin. And honestly, guys, Bulldog, you said it earlier, and I'm going to agree with you. At some point here, maybe we start to think about and hear about Jordan Hancock getting a little bit more of a look here, because I think through 2 preseason games, he's looked better than Cole Bishop.
I definitely agree with that. I think it's notable, Nate mentioned this, how quickly McDermott seemed to shut that down last week when it came up, right? But I feel like the door's open. I was really bummed out to hear that he got hurt when he did in the game, because I felt like if he could stay on the field, and maybe he will. We'll see. Tomorrow we'll find out, I would imagine, some idea of what happened to him with his shoulder. I know he said after the game that he was fine. But, yeah, I feel like that door, we were, I think, cracking it open last week, and I feel like maybe even McDermott himself has to realize that he might have to open the door.
Maybe, that's right. The fact that Cam Lewis was hurt and didn't play in this game as well kind of complicates things a little bit, because, Jordan Hancock plays nickel corner, he plays safety. Now, he was hurt on a play where he was playing nickel corner. He wasn't at safety that play, but he predominantly has been playing safety. I think that's where they see him fitting right now. I think he's fitting in at safety, and considering what that position has looked like, considering everything we're talking about with Cole Bishop, I think that's kind of where you have to fit him now. And then the fact that the Bills have, Brandon Beane has openly said, I think Cam Lewis is the best backup nickel corner in the league. Maybe that's where he just fits, and you just keep him there. And then you let Jordan Hancock play safety, and then along the way they can both kind of still do both positions, and you teach Jordan Hancock still nickel corner as the season progresses and his career progresses. But I do think that he's a candidate here to at least get a little bit more looks. But could they even go outside the organization? The quote was, I believe, we have to see what we have there and what we need. And I think that's interesting.
That's the quote.
What does that mean by what we need?
Right. Yeah, I feel like when I hear that is...
It's alarm bells a little bit.
Yeah, right. Well...
I mean, this is the week, right? If you're going to...
Yeah.
This is the week where you start to look at those things. If you look back at most, NFL transactions towards the end of, camps, they start to happen. They start to percolate a little bit this week. They might not occur until after the preseason game, but you start to hear things because this is it. This is the final week. I mean, guys, a week from tomorrow is the roster cutdown day. Mm-hmm. So, you have to get to 53. And, there's going to be different moves and roster gymnastics and IRs and pup lists and all that kind of stuff that's going on. And then there's going to be moves. And every year we see it around the league. I just wonder is that something they're looking at outside of the organization? I think they really want, no doubt, right? We all know this. They really, really want it to be Cole Bishop working out, and he's the guy, the second-round pick that, they drafted and they can rely on. But if they go back and watch this film and say, man, there's just such a gap right there, we don't know if he can get there, then they're going to have to figure out where do we turn to it right now, and do we have that on our roster?
And Sal, I mean, listen, they lost 38-0, and I think it's important that this is sort of the thing we've all been talking about. This was sort of like just make a play and have us stop talking about the safety room, and ultimately that's not what happened. But this was a failure at a lot of levels yesterday. I thought Ryan Vandermark had a tough game, a couple of offsides. I thought he could have been called for 3 or 4 more false starts in that game. The one position that I looked at too that I've been, I think, very disappointed in, Sal, is the tight end position behind Dawson Knox and Dalton Kincaid. And this is a team that lost Quentin Morris, a guy that they've really relied on, liked a lot, played a core special teams role for them, and when was asked, came in, he made catches and was where he was supposed to be at all times. I know they've got a young rookie there, and Zach Davidson was a darling last year. That has not carried over this year. Your thoughts on the backup tight ends behind Dawson Knox and Dalton Kincaid, knowing that the last couple of years Knox doesn't play in every game. He's been banged up, and same with Dalton Kincaid. I don't know that I'm super concerned about the third string tight end or how much I should be, but it's a team that has had to rely on it more than I think, they've probably wanted to in the years past.
Yeah, Zach Davidson, people that might not realize, he's in his 5th year in the NFL. I mean, he's been around. He was with the Minnesota Vikings, came to the Bills. He had a year where he had a knee injury and he had to be he was out for the entire year. He's been on the practice squad a couple times. I've never felt that he would make this team, but he's always been a nice guy to have, break glass in case of emergency if one of your pass-catching tight ends, and I'll call that Dawson Knox, even though he's not like a Dalton Kincaid. They're a little different. That you can rely on him. And Quentin Morris has been on the team, but I think we all know the replacement there is Jackson Hawes, right? Mm-hmm. Jackson Hawes is the Quentin Morris replacement. He's not going to be relied on to catch passes, but he's going to be relied on to block. So, yeah, I mean, if they have to rely on, going that deep on the depth chart at tight end, obviously it's not ideal right now. But that being said, you hope that's not the case, and Jackson Hawes is going to be on the field a lot more to block than anything else. But you brought up offensive line, so I'll go there because I agree with you. Ryan Vandermark, not a good day, not a good night for Vandy. He had 2 false starts on the very first possession, mm-hmm. and then he got beat also a couple of times, and one resulted either in a sack or a real tough pressure. But he owned it after the game. He talked about it. And one thing we talked about in the locker room, and guys, this is not an excuse. It's not, you could just accept it but it is true. This does happen. This happened with Dawson Knox last week. Remember Dawson Knox first play, the false start last week against the Giants at home, right? Like this happens, which is when you're not used to playing with the same offensive line next to you and you're not used to the same cadence in the same center, like all those things, especially on the road. I know it's preseason. Those little things can matter to you. A, not having a proper stance at the get-off. B, going a little bit early, right? Again, not an excuse, but these things happen. This is why coaches, Sean McDermott, talk about communication, cohesiveness, playing together. It's not just the safeties. It's the O-line. And that was an O-line last night that, was put together, and they're not your starters, but they're going to have to be relied on, some of these guys. I mean, heck, Connor McGovern did not dress last night. When he told reporters after the game that he tweaked his hamstring. I mean, so now you're dealing with another interior guy, right? Cedric Van Granger is still on PUP. Alec Anderson has not returned yet. So right now, I mean, there's multiple issues with the injuries are compounding the issues because even if the guys are going to be back by week 1, you're not getting these reps with everyone who needs to be getting reps together.
Sal Capaccio on the West Her Hotline with us here on WGR, pouring over, I don't know, the wreckage feels a little strong for a preseason game, but still it was 38-0, and not much of anything really went very well. Sal, what was that? I read arrows up and arrows down, but I forget now what the arrows up were as we're talking. Like what went well yesterday? Or even overall on the trip to Chicago, if you want to circle back to Friday, if you want.
You want me to give an arrow up to going to Wrigley? You want to give an arrow up going on the Architect boat cruise? We can do that, That was good.
Chicago, beautiful city. Yeah.
Right. Friday was – so let me just kind of give you a big picture, and then I'll get to my arrows up from the game. I really take in this weekend as a multi-day, multi-game kind of event, right? It's not just last night. It's Friday. And I do think the two teams approached it differently, whereas Friday meant a lot to the Bills. They wanted to get a lot of work in for their starters, make sure that they get a lot of things done that they can say, you know what, that's good, and we'll back off them. And they did that. And we talked Friday, Bulldog, after the scrimmage, after the practice. It's 2+ hours of teamwork. There was no DB against wide receiver one-on-one. They did team almost the whole time. It was 11-on-11. It was 7-on-7. It was red zone. It was goal line. It was everything. And I think the Bills and the Bears both got a lot out of that. I'm not going to sit here and tell you the Bills won it, the Bears won it. I just think you could pick out lots of parts that were very beneficial for both. I thought it was a really, really good day. And that really kind of set the tone for the Bills to say, okay, that's great. We don't need Josh out there. We don't need these other people. I mean, pretty much every starter other than Cole Bishop, wound up sitting. The Bears treated it a little bit differently. Yes, that was important for them. But since the beginning of training camp, from everybody I've talked to in Chicago, they are taking every single day, every single rep, very physical, very serious. Like they're trying to set a culture. They're trying to set a tone. Mm-hmm. And last night meant something to them. I'm not telling you here that it didn't mean anything to the Bills. They didn't care. They laughed it off. But certainly the Bears wanted to make sure they continued what they're trying to do here, and they have a vision in mind. And there's nothing wrong with that. And that's why they came out and they kind of just had the pedal to the metal right away. I thought the Bills played like a team yesterday overall, a team that was tired and wanted to get home after 4 days in Chicago. I really did. And again, not an excuse, but it happens. And I think that's what we saw. that compounded a lot of the stuff that we saw yesterday on the field last night. I did give an arrow up to the punter, Brad Robbins. I know it sounds funny that he's one of the lone bright spots, but he's had a nice preseason. He told us in the locker room that he read and heard things people saying about him in the offseason. He doesn't have a big leg, so he really worked on that. And I think he's shown a big leg, but more than anything, he's directionally punting well. And look, if he can do that in the regular season and really place it where they need it, that's going to help their defense a ton. I gave an arrow up to Frank Gore. He had one blemish, and of course it was a big one. It was the fumble. He was bracing himself for contact in front. It came from behind him. There was a little peanut punch. But Frank Gore, once again, led the team in yards from scrimmage. There's probably no spot for Frank Gore on this roster. But he might be, sneakily giving himself a shot on another team's roster if there's an injury around the league. And that would be great for him. And that's what you love to see. And I do think Jordan Hancock played pretty well. So I gave him an arrow up as well. Yes, he did have the injury later. Hopefully there's nothing serious there.
I know they had 180 yards of total offense or something, Sal, but I also wanted to get your thoughts on Tyrell Shavers, who I thought, in a couple of throws, both from Mike White and from Mitch Trubisky, kind of looks like the guy that they were looking to in terms of the reserve receivers on the field. Overall, I don't know where you stand and how much maybe has changed for you since when camp opened to today, August 18th. I don't know if you threw a percentage on his likelihood of making this 53-man roster this year. I think we all agree it could have been as close as anybody last year for him making. He was probably 54 or 55. What are your thoughts about his chances of really making this 53-man roster this year after really knocking on the door the last two seasons?
It's going to come down to the same thing that we talked about last year. And I like Tyrell Shavers a lot, right? I really do. I mean, he works his butt off, and he makes plays. The simple question is this. Does he offer enough outside of playing on the field at wide receiver to justify being the last wide receiver? Because that's just the reality of any team. This is not just a Buffalo Bills-centric thing for everyone to understand. This is the way it works in the NFL. If you're going to be the last receiver on the roster, you have to play special teams because otherwise it's not justifying a spot at wide receiver because you have enough guys already. So what are you talking there? Are you talking 5 wide receivers? I don't think he cracks that unless you talk about moving off Curtis Samuel, which, by the way, could be in the window right now, right? Because there's a guy that we still haven't seen, and McDermott's been talking about getting him back, and, you got to get him on the field. So, sure, we could do that. Are you talking about keeping a 6 wide receiver? If you do, that guy absolutely is almost exclusively going to play a ton of special teams. That's not Tyrell Shavers. I mean, it's just not. It's not his game. That could be Laviska Shenault. So you could make the argument. I hate saying it like this because I feel like I'm downing Tyrell Shavers. I'm not. I just know how NFL rosters are constructed, and that particular spot has to be a guy that gives you a little bit of versatility around the football field in a 60-minute game.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. I mean, because you look at the depth chart at receiver, Shakir's not. I mean, maybe he'll catch some punts, but he's not playing special teams. Keon Coleman's not playing special teams. Elijah Moore's has been not a special teamer.
Right.
Same with Samuel. There's your top 4. So now you're to 5. So yeah, if Shavers, Sally, he covered a couple of kicks or punts yesterday. Is there, even if it's not his strong suit, do you think he can do enough there to crack it? Because they not only do you want it for him, they kind of need a guy there.
He might be able to, and I do love the fact. I will say I am encouraged for his sake that they're using him there. And they're trying to see. Can he do this? Did I tell you the story about Friday, the gunner drill? Right, I think I did. Bulldog,
yes.
Right?
Yeah, I saw it on Twitter. Yeah.
Yeah, he was playing gunner. It was a gunner drill. It was a punt drill. He's got 2 bears in front of him, and he just kind of physically beat the first guy off the line who got his hands on him, and then he did a little up and under swim move on the guy who came over to get him after on the double team, and he just smoked 2 guys. And the crowd, the sideline went nuts for him. It was great. And he gets to the end and he flexes. It was great. It was such great energy, and I love to see that, right? And I think his teammates are rooting for him. So sure, I do think. Could you envision him in a Mac Hollins type of role like that? Yeah, I think you could, but does he get on the field as much as they used Mac Hollins last year?
Probably
given what they've
not.
done at wide receiver? Probably not.
Right.
That's where the rub is going to come in for him, right? And then you look at it and say, well, what else do you need? Because right now, you might need another veteran linebacker. I mean, after what we saw last night, does Shaq Thompson make the team? He's got flexibility. He could play. Is that a guy that you want on your 53-man roster, right? What are you looking at as far as corner is concerned with, Max Harrison being out, and where does that stand? And keeping a guy, you got to probably keep Dorian Strong because you're not going to waive a draft pick right now this early in his career. There's only so many spots available here.
Sal, excellent work in Chicago. I enjoyed following along while Owen and I were in Boston.
Yes. How was it?
We had a great time. We had an absolutely great time. Like, maxed out. The amount of time we were there, we did enough for me to feel like it was worth doing. You know what I mean? It wasn't just the game. We did a little sightseeing, too. We were there early enough because we flew, which meant we had to leave really early because the return flight, the cheap, because I'm a cheapskate, was, real early in the morning, 7:30 in the morning, but yesterday, but it worked out great. So, yeah, cheers to you, cheers to us, cheers to baseball.
Awesome.
All right.
And you saw a win, right? They beat the Marlins.
Yeah, they hung on. They were up 7-0, and it got 7-5, and eventually they needed to bring in Chapman for 1 out in the 9th. To get it home, but they did win. All right.
I love that for you and Owen. And real quick, but you did not get the Thunderbirds buzzing the tower like they did at Wrigley while we were there.
No,
right?
I definitely did not.
He
Really
did
sweet.
get a Yankees suck cheer though.
Yeah,
so
I was really happy about that. For my son got the full
different
Boston
strokes
experience
for different folks.
They're playing the Miami Marlins, and it's we got the Yankees suck
an August
going.
game. Yeah,
right.
I know you guys got to go here. Nate, the Syracuse has named the Notre Dame transfer their starting quarterback.
And guess who plays? I think is it October 22nd or November 20th?
Mm-hmm.
They play each other. So it'll be Notre Dame.
Should I be excited about this or not?
I think so. Honestly, Sal, I kind of wish right now the Notre Dame is the only team in the country in the top 25 that has not named a starting quarterback yet. I'm a little worried that maybe they should have found a way to keep Steve Angeli. So is he going to be a 5-star recruit and be Kyle McCord? I don't think so, but I think he'll be a good steady presence for you guys.
All right, Sal, we got to go.
Thanks
for this. We'll, of course, connect later on in the week with Sal. Sal on the Western Hotline. His appearances are always brought to you by New York's only outlet liquor. When you need to stock up, it's the place to buy a
Might
case.
need a case after yesterday.
A ghastly showing for the Bills in preseason game number 2. Really, it's been a lot about the secondary and specifically Cole Bishop. We'll continue with your calls after this. 803-0550. Lines are wide open. If you've got a thought on the game, want to get in on the conversation, we'd love to have you. Nate Geary's in for Mike Schopp. I'm the Bulldog, and this is WGR.
We've been living in sin so long, all the fields are gone. Fella stopped me on the street last night, said everything's alright. Roller coaster, make it through the day, I'm right. It seems your meal ticket is gone.
Buffalo Bills shut out last night 38-0 to the Chicago Bears. They dropped to 0-2 in the preseason. Rookie Jordan Hancock left yesterday's contest early with a shoulder injury. No update yet on the severity of that. The Bills having off today. And next up for the Bills, will be wrapping up their preseason on Saturday night. They travel to Tampa to take on the Buccaneers. The Browns have named Joe Flacco their starting quarterback. Chiefs first-round rookie in 2023, Felix Anudike-Uzomah, will be placed on injured reserve, a right strained hamstring. He is out for the season. Former Texas wide receiver Isaiah Bond officially signing a 3-year, $3 million deal with the Browns. And Dolphins running back Devon Achane not practicing this week as he will be dealing with a calf injury. And week 2 of the preseason will wrap up tonight with Monday Night Football between the Bengals and Commanders in D.C. Kickoff at 8 p.m. over on ESPN. It's Paddock Chevrolet Sports Headlines. Paddock Chevrolet celebrating 90 years of being your hometown dealership. I'm Zach Jones for WGR Sports Radio 550.
They're all learning. You look out there and you got TJ out there and getting some good reps, Dion getting some good reps, Landon getting some good reps, Sal's in his second year. I mean, so there's quite a bit of youth out there, and these guys are wet behind the ears, and they need time. We didn't plan on playing TJ and Dion that long into the third quarter, but we came out and wanted to get them some more reps, and that experience is good for them. You know, we're trying to see who can play up with the varsity, if you will, and who can help us. So that's part of the evaluation from tonight.
Bills head coach Sean McDermott on the heels of a tough night for the Bills in Chicago. They lose 38-0. I said it at the outset of today's show. I feel some compulsion to remind myself and all of us, because of how it sometimes does sound, mostly today, that these same two teams played last year in the preseason, and the Bears beat the Bills 33-6. So, you know, it not indicative of how the season's going to go, but like in a micro sense, there are some things that, to varying degrees, the fan base and media have been commenting on, concerned about, worried about. I don't know how high a level you want to raise that to, but Cole Bishop is central to it. McDermott really didn't do himself or really Bishop any favors last week, as he talked about, I mean, pretty bluntly, the urgency of getting the guy on the field because he's missing a lot of time again, just like he did last season. So now the focus is all the more, right? Like, right. Mostly, I mean, this is a couple weeks old now, but I think I was in here with you just a couple weeks ago, and it's like, yeah, there's a lot of injuries. It's okay. It's August. You know, it's August 7th. Again, a couple weeks ago. It's August 7th. If it's September 4th, I'm a little more worried. Well, the clock is ticking, but it's harder to be patient when you start to sense that the coach and therefore the organization might be more worried than you thought. And that's what McDermott, to me, sounded like last night. Just talking, and even earlier last week, talking about Bishop specifically, needing him and Rapp to get time on task, reps together, communication, all that. That still has not happened. I mean, Rapp and Bishop did practice together on Friday in the joint practice with the Bears, but only Bishop played in the game. He was the only defensive starter that saw any time on the field. One offensive starter, presumably Josh Palmer, is a starting receiver on this team. He played on that side of the ball. That was it. And Bishop was at the scene of the crime a couple of times. And I don't know really if he got a read wrong or just got faked out, but he stepped absolutely the wrong way on that touchdown and never caught up.
And then the other safety just completely whiffed on a tackle.
Horrible.
I think a little of it was, holy bleep, this position seems like it's a mess. On that play, I was like, yikes.
Yeah, Bishop probably could have really used Hamlin to make that tackle.
It would have made it less...
Pick my buddy up here.
Yeah.
Right? Because he still would have gotten beat off the line and allowed the completion.
But it happens.
But, okay, fine.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, I don't know if that was just such a good job of stepping outside and then cutting in by the receiver, or if he thought he had some responsibility out there. I didn't see anything watching the play that he could have been thinking, I'm going to be needed for this guy. Mm-hmm. So I think he just got beat. Which, again, right, it happens, but it just turned into, it compounded. The Bishop mistake led to a Hamlin mistake, which led to a touchdown. And those are guys that really, one or the other is right now probably going to be a starter.
Yeah.
Out there, right? That's what the situation was last year, because Bishop couldn't get up to speed in time, and Hamlin ended up paired up with Rapp. And again, like you won 13 games and got through your season.
Yep.
It's not like it undid anything. So that needs to be recognized, that even if they don't get better at that position, the status quo was still good enough for you to have the year you had. Yep. But if you're looking for the defense to sort of restabilize and become, just better, improve, safety is an obvious spot to be looking. Really, corner two, I want to say I'd be surprised if Tre'Davious White, even in his current state, can't give you something pretty similar to what Rasul Douglas gave you last year, provided he can stay healthy, right? So Max Hairston, this sort of mitigates that. And again, I'm talking about treading water here, not getting better. Safety is a place where I think you should be looking to get actual improvement and get better and get more plays out of. And, last night it got off, obviously, to a pretty terrible start with what you saw from Bishop. So, it's a big couple of weeks here. And
no doubt. No doubt about it. And, frankly, I wanted to make sure with Sal, I was like, in a blowout like this, this is under the microscope, and a little of it is because the coach talked about it. And I'll say this, being on the other side of this, is I can understand why coaches maybe don't say everything that they feel in the moment, because this is sort of what happens. And we spent a lot of last week after those comments saying, okay, this could be an interesting week. Okay, he's back for the scrimmage or, the open joint practice. And then, whoa, he's starting. He's the only starter that's playing that has pads on. Oh, okay. And, So, being on the other side, I do get it. But I also like that Sean's been a little bit more emotional about some of this stuff, because I think that's what it was. I mean, he's publicly talking about the disappointment in a player they're really relying on not being available, and even some of the things he talked about with last night with TJ Sanders and Deion Walker. Getting these guys are young, inexperienced. We need to see something to see if they can help us on the varsity squad. That was that's a quote.
Yeah, I took that.
That's a quote.
I took that very much as it didn't go very well, so we kept them in there.
Yeah.
Right? That's what that is. That's not, they were playing great,
so we
wanted
to
keep, no. Because that would imply you care about trying to win the game, and of course you don't.
They don't.
What I heard there is, not so hot. So, just a few areas that I think you can, you can decide how concerned you want to be about it. It is still August, but with all the attention, and again, like when the coach tells you, he sort of leads you in a direction, and I don't think in this case that's misdirection. I think he just was telling you, I'm worried about this, and then you see it. You can't imagine he's any less worried after seeing what happened in the game. Did you have any thoughts at all on backup quarterback, or is that pretty much over? You think like Trubisky's going to be the backup quarterback? You think?
Yeah. And I don't want to say it's because of anything Trubisky did.
Right.
I just don't think Mike White did enough yesterday. And in fairness, those first two drives when the Bears starters were out there defensively, I mean, it was a firing squad. I mean, he was getting to the top of his drop, and like also, oh hey, it's 3rd and 10. Oh, offsides. Okay, now it's 3rd and 20. And the next drive, it's first and 30 after a Zach Davidson interference penalty. I don't know that he even really had a shot. So I do wonder if maybe next week on Saturday night, if they give him another look to say like, it didn't go well, let's give you another shot. But they put Josh Palmer out there with him. The other thing too, and maybe we can get into this next segment, is Ray Davis has had tough on-film showing the first 2 weeks of the preseason. I don't know how good he's looked in training camp. The Bills' starting offensive line last week against the Giants, probably the best defensive line in football. Having said that, it's not a running attack that's looked very good at all without James Cook in there.
Last night, obviously, is mitigated by who was playing, right?
For sure.
I mean, I think even wasn't the one draft pick was almost playing. He's playing tackle, and I think he's mostly been playing guard. Lund has been, and so they were really. I mean, they were
piecing it together.
They took their depth for a ride on the O line last night. I look, I'm not going to kid anyone. The game starts. I'm like, who's Green? Who's the center? What? This is one of those signings that like Zach mentioned in the update all day long, and we just never even said anything about it. Like, wow, okay. So, I mean, they really were piecemeal there. 803-0550 is the phone number. Nate Geary is in for Mike Schopp. I'm the Bulldog. Ryan Talbot, upstate New York, and the Shout podcast coming your way at the top of the hour here on WGR.
It's about to leave. Oh, roller coaster. Oh, roller coaster. In sin so long, all the feels are gone. Fella stopped me on the street last night, said everything's alright. Roller coaster, make it through the day upright. It seems your meal ticket is gone, but life goes on. I could never imagine something better. Yeah, right. Now you're cooking on high heat in the middle of the street. Roller coaster, take me to a better time. Let's go. All sing your high line with the roller coaster of life. Yeah. It's time to all choose your timeline on the roller coaster of life. You seem to easily forget how to place your bet. When everyday life gets you down, you gotta steal the crown. Got to own it. Don't bitch and moan about it, please. God forbid you scrape your knees, and it's nothing to sneeze at. Oh, I've told you over and over again. You gotta get both hands around it and make your own plans. Roller coaster, it's taking over, it's about time. Oh, all sing your high line on the roller coaster of life. You've got to all choose your timeline with the roller coaster of life. I want to go down the rabbit hole, down the rabbit hole. Oh, it's about to leave. Oh, roller coaster. Oh, roller coaster. We've been living in sin so long, all the feels are gone. Fella stopped me on the street last night, said everything's alright. Roller coaster, make it through the day upright. It seems your meal ticket is gone, but life goes on. I could never imagine something better. Yeah, right. Now you're cooking on high heat in the middle of the street. Roller coaster, take me to a better time. Let's go. All sing your high line with the roller coaster of life. Yeah. It's time to all choose your.
Running along here on a Monday afternoon on WGR. Thanks for tuning in. Mike Schopp has the day off today. Should be back tomorrow. Nate Geary sitting in for him. I am the Bulldog. Spending, of course, not surprisingly, all of the day so far poring over the Bills' defeat at the hands of the Chicago Bears last night, 38-0. How about just a moment or two here before we get to the top of the hour?
Shane Bichelle, finally,
and
some hard-hitting radio.
And back to the Bills conversation. I thought maybe we'd spend a moment or two on Scotty Scheffler.
Oh, okay, sure.
I thought you'd like that.
Oh, yeah.
The chip on 17 was
Tiger-esque.
Preposterously
It was insane.
good.
It was insane.
Could not believe
How about this?
that shot.
For a guy that didn't hit that green one time in 4 days, he played the whole 1 under for the week.
Right, he managed to save par the first 3 rounds, and then the last, yesterday did that.
It's crazy.
And that was after it's a one shot.
Yeah.
At that point, there's like a wobble. He 3-putted.
Poor Robbie Mack. I mean, he's sitting
know.
there watching that.
Just like the U.S. Open spun. There's the what are you gonna do? He's standing there. They didn't show him from the front, but from the back, he was just staring at Scotty Scheffler from the edge of the green. Like, are you kidding me?
Piss off, man.
Like, what? What are you trying to do to me? But just a tremendous shot, and the season has been. I mean, the tear he's on in 3.5 years
is insane.
Is it 18 tournaments now?
Yeah.
Including how many? 3 majors?
Yeah, and this is going to be his second consecutive season with 5 or more tour victories, which is starting to get into some significant company. And to me, yes, the shot on 17 was unbelievable. And I was like, oh, this is starting to feel like Tiger. Now you're starting to see people.
Just for folks who weren't watching, just so you know, professional players that missed the green on the side where Scotty was chipping from were chipping balls that were leaving the green. They were leaving the green.
And he dyed it at the hole.
Yeah.
Like, it was insane. It's a 3-tier. I played the green like a week before. The green's insane. It's like one of the hardest greens on the premises. For him to do what he did there, it just was insane. But to me, the conversation on Twitter after it, right after that happened, but then after the tournament, he's probably going to push his way to being the reason the U.S. wins the Ryder Cup in a couple of weeks. And, what a season 2 majors this year after it was wow, the Masters, how many could he sweep it last year? It got a little, not disappointing. It just wasn't as prolific. And then somebody made the joke. It was like, imagine if he wasn't making ravioli on Christmas. Right. He had a slow ramp up this year. He didn't come out guns a-blazing. So to me, yes, that shot was unbelievable, and I get why people want to start making the Tiger. To me, it wasn't any shot in that round on Sunday that I was like, ooh, this is feeling like Tiger. It was that he got out there down 4 and in 2 holes erased the lead. That, to me, that was prime Tiger. You could be up 4, and if you're paired with him, you are melting away. You're withering away. And his presence is starting to have that vibe. Like, oh man, nothing worse than having a four-stroke lead in an event. No, that's usually insurmountable. Right. He did it in 2 holes. So that to me is why, if you're going to start having a conversation around using the word Tiger, and we do it all the time, when anybody starts going on a little bit of a run, that to me was like, we can start having the conversation. If other guys are starting to wither around him, that's where I think the real Tiger comparisons can start.
How far out are we from the Ryder Cup? Do you know the dates?
It's the 22nd, I think. Yeah, so I think we're about a month.
About a month.
About a month. Yeah.
Okay. Nate Geary's in for Mike Schopp. I'm the Bulldog. Ryan Talbot, New York Upstate, and the Shout Podcast coming your way right after this on WGR.
My bad.
More than 10 years ago.
I doubt there's a single guy that was on that team that's still there. Maybe like a kicker or something, but I doubt it.
Man, we're like 10 minutes into the week, and time is just kicking my ass over here.
Yeah, you're having a shocker of time.
Time has got the jersey pulled up over my head, and then I'm like, where are the linesmen?
How about
The Buffalo Bills do drop to 0-2 in the preseason following last night's 38-0 loss to Chicago. Rookie corner Jordan Hancock left yesterday's contest early with a shoulder injury. No update yet on the severity of that, with the Bills having off today. And next up for the Bills, they'll wrap up their preseason Saturday night when they travel to Tampa to take on the Buccaneers. Browns have their starting quarterback. They have named 41-year-old Joe Flacco. Chiefs dealing with a bit of injury issues. Felix Anudike-Uzomah, their first-round pick back in 2023, will be placed on injured reserve, a right strained hamstring. He is out for the season. Former Texas wide receiver Isaiah Bond officially signs a 3-year, $3 million deal with the Cleveland Browns. And then Dolphins running back Devon Achane, not going to practice this week. He's dealing with a calf injury. And then we'll wrap up preseason week number 2 with Monday Night Football tonight between the Bengals and Commanders. That game in D.C., 8 p.m. kickoff over on ESPN. And the Blue Jays, they are down in Pittsburgh to take on the Pirates at 6:40. Toronto currently holds the AL East by 5 games. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Paddock Chevrolet celebrating 90 years of being your hometown dealership. I'm Zach Jones for WGR Sports Radio 550.
Mike Schopp.
Hey, put a little. I never get this line out the first time. It's not even good. Hey, put a little bit more in there, cowboy.
And the Bulldog.
What's your degree in?
Kicking ass and taking names.
On WGR Sports Radio 550.
Happy to have you grooving along with us here on a Monday afternoon. I am the Bulldog. Mike Schopp has the day off. Nate Geary, kind enough to show up and sit in, even though he was on post-game duty last night. It's okay. You were all warmed up.
We're big back. We are so back.
We are so back that joining us right now on the Western Hotline, making his debut, I think, unless Mike has maybe had Ryan on the show while I've been away. I can't recall ever having Ryan Talbot from New York Upstate and the Shout podcast on the show. I know, Nate, you have had Ryan on even at training camp this year. Oh, yeah. All right. I'm sorry. There's a problem with the connection, I'm being told, and we're going to have to hang up on Ryan Talbot. Ryan, welcome to the afternoon show. I'm Chris. It's nice to talk to you.
Yeah, great to talk to you as well.
How do you want to frame last night? I mean, it's a preseason game. This is the same outcome last year, these same two teams. It was the first preseason game, not the second one. So, screaming and yelling about it seems kind of borderline moronic, but within the game, there are things I think to really be worried about, maybe most notably safety play. Where are you at?
I'm right there with you. I think I'll go overall secondary, and not just safety play, but also cornerback play a little bit, because a lot of the starters were not out there. That's why you don't want to overreact to a 38-0 loss. You had Brandon Codrington covering Roma Dunze, which you're never going to see in a regular season game. Tons of backups galore. But you do have to go into this thinking, okay, we're pretty close to the regular season, and there's some significant depth issues at both cornerback and at safety. Dane Jackson, I'll start there. He is having a rough go of it this summer. He was one of the Bills' cornerback signings that was supposed to come in and provide depth, obviously has experience in the system, a lot of starting time. He has not looked good through 2 preseason games. 2 or 3 steps behind defenders, not covering very well, not looking like the cornerback that had quite a bit of starting experience in Buffalo. You throw in the fact that Max Harrison's out with injury, and you wonder about the depth there behind Trey White and Christian Benford. And then safety right now is by far the most concerning. You look at Cole Bishop and DeMar Hamlin, both performed poorly against the Bears last night, missed tackles. You had not covering well if you're Cole Bishop, and I get it. Bishop's missed significant time this summer for the second straight summer at that, and he is on a pitch count, but you need to see a lot more there, because we're very close to that Ravens matchup, and you're wondering if they have enough of that safety position opposite Taylor Rapp.
How concerned do you think the Bills internally are? Because McDermott sort of alerted everyone last week to his concern about Bishop and Rapp, the other starting safety, presumably not having any time on task together. And, for me anyway, I mean, certainly I can watch the game and draw my own conclusions to an extent, but when the coach tells me he's worried about something, and I know McDermott often will say he's concerned about everything. He's the head coach. But I feel like he sort of pulled the alarm, and then you get last night, and what you end up with is fans, I think, kind of freaking out today.
Yeah, and I think there's some legitimacy to the concern at that position because Bishop, can you trust him to stay healthy over the course of the regular season? He was fairly healthy last year in more of a depth role, came on, started later in the season and played more reps. DeMar Hamlin is someone that the coaching staff trusts, but there's limitations to his game. You know the floor, you know the ceiling. This is not a Jordan Poyer, Micah Hyde situation in Buffalo anymore. And the fan base was obviously very spoiled with that safety combination. Taylor Rapp, the other starter that we know of, very good player, great fit in the system, but he also plays a physical style of football where he finds himself injured too. So you worry about the starters, you worry about the depth. Speaking of, free agents that really haven't panned out so far, Derek Forrest was someone that the Bills signed to kind of come in and compete for a depth role, and that really hasn't been the case. He's been buried on the depth chart there. Trey Herndon's come in and played just about as many reps, and he was only been here for about a week. So you do have to wonder what this team is going to do. Are they going to look at options of players that might get cut elsewhere and try to swing the trade? Are they going to stay with the status quo and maybe add a few safeties to the practice squad when the time comes? But right now, I do agree that there is some concern there, and I don't think that Sean McDermott is just saying that to kind of put the players on alert.
Jordan Hancock should enter the chat, I think, at this point. Although, circling back to McDermott from last week, when he was asked about that because of how they deployed Hancock, I think, in the Giants game and then even in practices, he just sort of shut it down. Like, he's a long ways away or something like that. I felt like with how he played last night and then how McDermott sounded again, taking cues from the coach after the game, like, we got to see what we've got and what we need. And I just sort of feel like the door might be cracked open, provided he's healthy off of last night's game. I know there was a shoulder injury, and we'll hopefully find out more about that tomorrow when the Bills get back on the field for practice. But the fact that we're even contemplating the fifth-round rookie taking a spot from Cole Bishop is maybe a sign of how alarming the situation should be.
Yeah, 100%. And the good news there is after the game, he said he was feeling pretty good, so you're hoping it's a minor shoulder injury and that he is going to be available if need be early this season. Through 2 weeks, he's been really impressive in terms of run stops, coverage ability, athleticism, taking the right angles on plays, going from the middle of the field to the sideline on one play against the Giants where he ran past the other safety on the field at the time to make the tackle. So you see the natural athleticism. I think the Bills are probably saying pump the brakes because he can do so much for this defense in terms of, nickel cornerback. He technically could play outside cornerback. He has the ability to play safety. Maybe they're still trying to figure out what they think his best position is. But through 2 weeks of the preseason and what we've seen over the summer, I find it hard to believe that safety is not his best position.
Yeah, and not to mention, you feel like you've heard, if you just listen to anything that Brandon Beane has ever said about Cam Lewis, I'll admit I was surprised to see in their first depth chart before the Giants game that Cam Lewis was listed as safety when Brandon Beane has really been very glowing about his reviews of what Cam Lewis is as a nickel defender, which he says is the best backup nickel defender in the league. He could start for a lot of teams. And so with knowing that, I think to me, seeing him be the guy, now Cam Lewis didn't dress yesterday, didn't play because of an injury, so maybe we don't know if Cam Lewis is in there instead of Jordan Hancock early in the game. He obviously did get injured playing nickel when he transitioned back, but man, I don't know, Ryan. I sort of am getting to the point of like, I'm going to maybe be on depth chart alert this week to see if there's a change because I think it might be warranted.
I agree with that. And, the unofficial, whatever you want to call it, depth chart was released for this game. There really were no changes on it whatsoever, but watching the game, if they're available, if they play, that's something to kind of monitor for sure. You look at guys like Cam Lewis and Hancock, and the Bills love the versatility that they bring and the fact that they can play multiple spots, but you're getting to the point now in the summer where you need to really figure out what is the best spot for these players. And in the case of Cam Lewis, and I agree with you, I think it's as a backup to Taron Johnson. Johnson is elite as he has been in that role. He's been banged up the last few years, and you want to have confidence that that first player off the bench in that role can come in and step up. And if that means putting him there and, exclusively there, I'm all for it, because Hancock has checked a lot of boxes and answered a lot of questions about how quickly he's picked up this defense so far this summer.
Ryan Talbot on the West Terre Hotline. You can read Ryan's work at New York Upstate, as well as Syracuse.com, and hear him as the co-host along with Matt Perino on the Shout podcast. So what else beyond, I don't want to spend the whole 20 minutes or so we're going to have with you, Ryan, talking about Cole Bishop and the safety position. What else might be alarming? It felt like, again, considering who was on the field, maybe this was the most concerning outing for Buffalo Joe. Andreessen got exposed in coverage. I know that's not his strong suit. So a tough night circumstantially, hopefully for him, because the opportunity for him to hold down a backup linebacker job is certainly there with the team releasing Balen Spector a week or so ago.
Yeah, absolutely. It was his first action where you really walk away concerned, though, with his level of play. And being surrounded by backups, I'm sure, factors into that. When you throw him out there with starters and high-quality options, he doesn't seem to stick out that negatively in general. But coverage has been a major concern for him. It's the one glaring weakness in his game. And, some of it was self-inflicted in terms of the depth that he took on plays. He came up too far. He wasn't in the right lane when needed on that third down play where Bishop lost coverage, and then obviously Hamlin eventually misses the tackle downfield. But Andreessen drops back in the proper depth, and you probably get a tackle after a few yards on that catch. So it's little things. He's a second-year player. The coaching staff has seen great strides in his game. I think his depth role on that second team is pretty well established. When Shaq Thompson comes back in terms of his health and things like that, maybe he claims a spot in that second team along with Dorian Williams. But I still think when push comes to shove, there's more upside, obviously, with Andreessen's game.
Flipping over to the other side of the ball. No, you know what? Before we flip over to the offense, we should talk about the defensive line. The rookies were showcased yesterday, starting the game. Landon Jackson at end. Lot of extensive playing time for the second-round pick, TJ Sanders, and the fourth-round pick, Deion Walker. And I thought, McDermott, again, sort of told on their ideas here when he indicated that those guys stayed in there because they needed the work. I took that as he didn't like what he saw, so they had to keep rolling him out there.
Yeah, 100%. Landon Jackson had a few wins last night, but there seems to be a lot more, I don't want to say losses, but lack of impact that I've seen so far this preseason. I think a lot of it has to do with his pass rush arsenal or lack thereof. He seems to be very dependent on his size and strength, and in the NFL, you're going to be hard-pressed to win a lot just with that. So that's one area of his game where he needs to really improve. I do think there's been more upside with the defensive tackle play of Sanders and Walker. Walker, though, at times is still playing too high with the pad level, so he gets pushed back on certain plays. He'll flash from time to time. And then with TJ Sanders, I think there's the most upside of the trio of what you're going to see out of them this year. So more positives than negatives, and I was happier with his performance than anyone else yesterday.
I would agree with that. Yeah, and I think Walker, through 2 games now, has flashed more as an interior pass rusher than as an anchoring defensive tackle run stopper guy. Like you mentioned the pad level thing. I think that's been really evident on rundowns.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was one of the biggest, weaknesses of Walker's game, was playing too high last year, and you thought maybe it had to do with the back injury, and maybe that was why he couldn't get as far down with the pad level, where TJ Sanders is very comfortable in terms of playing low, and he's so explosive at that size where I think the Bills are going to look for opportunities where they can kind of throw him onto the field with Ed Oliver and in obvious pass rush downs because of the ability that he has. Guys that size and having that type of athleticism is not common.
We talked a little bit, Ryan, I think last hour, about Ray Davis on the other side of the ball. And, especially in the games, it hasn't really come together for him. You would be at practice more than we would have here. Is there, I don't know, I think he had just sort of been anointed the second running back, the guy that's your kind of power, your inside the red zone type of guy, with Ty Johnson, I think, having a very clear defined role as your third down back. Has anything changed there for you? Have you been underwhelmed, disappointed, or, hey, he's playing with backup offensive linemen, and I think you got to take it with a grain of salt?
Yeah, it's the latter for me. I think last season when he was given opportunities to play and with the starting offensive lineman, when he was able to draw a start, he looked good on the field. He was able to read his assignments well. He caught a lot of big passes out of the backfield. Obviously, the swing pass in the Miami game going for a touchdown, the deep pass for about 50 yards against the Jets. So when given opportunities, I thought he performed very well as a rookie, and I've seen flashes of it here in year two. It's just that it's, tough sledding for him with the way this roster shakes out. James Cook is probably going to see an uptick in his snaps this year after signing the extension. Ty Johnson kind of cut into Ray Davis's role as the year went on. He went from a third down back to someone that they really trusted on all three downs to run the ball between the tackles, outside the tackles, catch the ball, block, you name it. So being that jack of all trades, it did cut into Davis's role a bit, but I still think that this season he's going to be given more opportunities to kind of be that traditional change of pace back for Buffalo, and I like enough of what I saw from him this summer and last year to think that he's going to be okay with the starting O-line.
Ryan Talbot, New York State, New York upset. I keep botching that, Ryan. I should just say Syracuse.com and just be done with the New York upset part. That'd be easier. Shout podcast on the Wester hotline with us for a few more minutes. What are your thoughts on the receiver battle and how the numbers will shake out there? We're seeing Shenault get reps as a punt returner, something he hadn't done at all in his NFL nor college career. We saw Codrington playing on defense last night, so I don't know if that's like an audition to see if he can help them at all or be counted on that side of the ball if it comes to that. But I feel like the door is cracked open for Shenault, but again, crowded numbers at receiver. How do you think it's all going to go with guys? I think we know who the top three are, but beyond that, 4 or 5, and is there a sixth?
Yeah, there's so many question marks about 4, 5, and 6 with Curtis Samuel and the injury history, the contract, and how that works out. You think with the contract, he's probably going to receive a roster spot, and to his credit, he did perform well late last season when he was healthy, but that's a little bit frustrating. I think Tyrell Shavers has to be firmly in the conversation to be for that number 5 role, because not only has he answered a lot of questions as a receiver once again for the second straight year, but now he's performing on special teams and performing well in that role. And that's the one thing that they really needed to see from him is, can he contribute on special teams if we give him a game day jersey? After last night's game, I thought Elijah Moore's stock really went down. I thought in the first preseason game he was wide open on the 3rd and 15, and Trubisky just didn't see him. In this game, though, he had some really bad drops, and the one catch that he made on, I call it the Khalil Shakir special, those quick passes where you're just supposed to go straight up field. He tried to take it to the outside, which forced Zach Davidson to panic. He grabbed the face mask of a Bears defender, led to a big loss on that play. So even when he made a catch, he made the wrong read. He didn't take the ball where it was supposed to go. So there hasn't been enough performance out of Elijah Moore this preseason, even this summer, for me to feel comfortable saying that he's earned a roster spot, which then opens the door for Shenault, who you mentioned, because he has the special teams ability, in addition to being a gadget guy, a wide receiver, can wear a lot of hats in the offense as that last receiver. And Codrington, as good of a story as he was last year, there is no path for him as a cornerback. So I think the Bills are going to be tough to justify keeping him purely as a return man.
Well, I think, too, the wide receiver position, I think it's easy to point at, Elijah Moore's performance yesterday. It was a little underwhelming, to your point. He was missed, I think, on a pretty clear touchdown in the first preseason matchup. The guy that I think I think all of us would probably like to talk about performance-wise is Curtis Samuel. He just has not been on the field. I mean, he's basically missed all but a week of training camp and now preseason. And if you want to talk about the words of Sean McDermott ringing, just in terms of this week and how he spoke about Cole Bishop and the patience or maybe lack thereof and time being, of the essence, man, I got to feel the same about Curtis Samuel, who was brought in here as an $8 million receiver, missed most of training camp last year. The toe injury, he just never really made an impact until January. And now we're sitting here in the same position I felt like we were this time last year. Man, if Moore is going to be on the roster bubble for performance, man, it's got to feel like Curtis Samuel is for availability.
Yeah, and I agree with that. The only pushback would be the dead cap hit that would be provided if the Bills were to release him. Now, we have seen a few instances where the Bills have just kind of taken their medicine and released a player and taken on that dead cap. But that's the one thing that could save Samuel, that and his performance in January. But I'm right there with you because he has not been available. He has not been able to show what he can do in this offense. And there are a lot of players that have been fighting for playing time and fighting for spots this summer that their skill set is very similar to what he brings to the table.
Yeah, the trade mitigates the cap hit if you can find, but you got to find somebody to take the contract. And I like in that case, you're not even worried about the return. You just find somebody that will take the contract, and that's probably a pretty heavy lift with everything we just talked about regarding his health, right?
Yeah, the one idea I pitched was you send him away for a conditional 7th, but you also probably have to sweeten the pot and send a earlier day 3 pick along with him. Is that enough to entice a team that has cap space, knowing that when he is healthy, he can be a contributor? Possibly. But it's so tough because there's going to be so many players, as we see out there on social media now, that are going to be available via trade at receiver, running back, you name the position, where why are you going to want to send any kind of asset, even if it's a conditional late day 3 pick for a guy that can't stay healthy?
Right. It's a very tough time of the summer to try to do that. Like if they wanted to do something in that regard, maybe a few weeks ago would have been more ideal than when, like you said, dozens of guys, hundreds of guys are going to be flooding the market here. In when is cut down? It's Sal said it. It's
a week from tomorrow.
A week from tomorrow.
Yeah, so 26th, I believe, is the date.
It is closing fast. All right. Is there anything to a quarterback battle here, or do you think Trubisky's the backup?
Yeah, I think Trubisky kind of won that job just by default yesterday with the way Mike White performed. And there were some bad drops, but White's taking bad sacks, not looking comfortable in the pocket, not being able to kind of pick up where he left off. I thought he had a strong training camp overall, but he really hasn't looked the part in 2 preseason games, at least not early in his performance against the Giants. He came on strong late against the third-string players, but didn't impress very much against the Bears last night.
Nobody plays against Tampa. Is this Shane Buechele time, do you think, the Tampa game next Saturday?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. And if you want to have Mike White out there, too, and just, probably he understands the writing on the wall now that you're going to be that practice squad guy again if you want to be. I don't see any reason to risk Josh Allen and company now after you've protected him and a lot of your starters in the first 2 preseason games. Why throw him out there in the final game, right?
Yeah, that would. I myself, I'd answer my question. I'd be somewhere between very surprised and stunned if those aren't synonyms. I think they're slightly different. But anyway, Ryan, really enjoyed it. Appreciate the time. Love the work, and hope we can connect again down the road.
Yeah, sounds great. Thanks, guys.
That is Ryan Talbot, co-host of the Outstanding Shout podcast with our buddy Matt Perino, and you can read his work at Syracuse.com as well as NewYorkUpstate.com. There, I got through it. What do you know? 803-0550 is the phone number. You want to get in on anything that you saw last night or just through the summer. We are, close to closing out the preseason and roster cut down, like we just said, a week from tomorrow, and, it's getting to be that time here. So thoughts on anything Bills related welcomed after this. Nate Geary's in for Mike Schopp. I'm the Bulldog, and you are listening to WGR.
It's an 0-2 start for the Buffalo Bills in the preseason following last night's 38-0 loss to the Chicago Bears. Rookie Jordan Hancock left yesterday's contest early with a shoulder injury. No update yet on the severity of that, with the Bills having off today. And next up for the Bills, they are going to wrap up their preseason on Saturday night when they travel to Tampa to take on the Bucs. The Browns have their starting quarterback. They have named 41-year-old Joe Flacco. Former Texas wide receiver Isaiah Bond officially is signing his 3-year, $3 million deal with the Cleveland Browns. And Dolphins running back Devon Achane not going to practice this week. He is dealing with a calf injury. And then week number 2 of the preseason is going to wrap up tonight with Monday Night Football. The Bengals taking on the Commanders in D.C. Kickoff at 8 p.m. over on ESPN. It's Paddock Chevrolet Sports Headlines. Paddock Chevrolet celebrating 90 years of being your hometown dealership. I'm Zach Jones for WGR Sports Radio 550.
Rolling along here on a Monday afternoon. Thanks for tuning in. I am the Bulldog. Mike Schopp's had the day off. So he has the day off. There's still a lot of day left. He'll be back tomorrow. Nate Geary sitting in today. Last night's post-game coverage didn't scar him too badly, so he's here. 803-0550 is the number. You want to react to anything we've been talking about. I mean, a lot of it has been focused on the secondary and Cole Bishop specifically off of the preseason game yesterday. But the overall, still, I'm not panicking about even Cole Bishop looking bad. It's not ideal, but I don't think it's like I don't know. It's not something that's going to like kill them. Really, anything short of something happening to Josh Allen, I don't think can kill them. There are varying degrees to which you can get by, and I think they got by last year without Cole Bishop really impacting their defense at all. They had maybe their worst defense under Sean McDermott last season, so you want to get better. The safeties left last year. They didn't really find suitable replacements, at least to get you anywhere near the level. It's a high bar, Hyde and Poyer in their primes, but Bishop is supposed to represent that, and it did not go well in the snaps he played. He's had problems staying on the field, which exacerbates the problem, and so here we are. West is first up this segment. Hi, West. Thank you for calling. You're on the air here on WGR.
Hey, Bulldog. Thank you again for taking my call.
You're welcome.
Yeah, you know what? I turned the game off at about halftime last night. I had to go to sleep anyway, but, there weren't that many concerns. I know they were dominated, whatever, but from the opening kickoff, I didn't see guys on the field that are even going to make the team. So I think McDermott, and I know he's not happy about their performance, he's going to talk to each and every one of these guys. He's going to let them know where they stand. They already have their starters set, right? None of them played last night.
Well, Bishop is the one. That's why that's been the focus of so much of the conversation today.
Yes, I realize that. Yeah, and Hamlin, I mean, he's not an all-pro either, so maybe they do have a few concerns in the secondary. But as long as everyone stays healthy, McDermott is such a great coach. I think the defense is going to be just fine, and Dreesen will be fine, like you guys said. If he plays with starters, he's good. Ray Davis, he I talked to you a couple weeks ago, and I was wondering what would they do if James Cook hadn't signed. Yeah. And, of course, he signed, But Ray Davis, of course, he wasn't with starting offensive linemen, but I guess I'm just saying I'm so glad Cook signed because
yeah, right. Yeah,
we know Johnson's a great third down back, but I mean Frank Gore led the team in rushing and receiving last night.
That happens in almost every preseason game across the league. Wes, thank you for the call. I appreciate you calling back in, like you referenced from pretty recently. go. I don't want to suggest you really do this, but open up the box scores from any of these games. The leading offensive players in these games are guys that are very likely not to even be on their teams. Not always. It's on occasion a starter does splash and have a big day. Ashton Genty had a nice preseason outing for the Raiders earlier on the weekend, so it does happen. I don't know. Nate brought up Ray Davis earlier. I am not the least bit. They had a guy that's been practicing mostly at tackle playing guard last night. I mean, raise your hand if you knew who Green was, the center. I mean,
Kenyon Green? Are you kidding?
They just slapped a line together and went out there. So, look. I mean, any running back is going to benefit from quality line play. It's one of the reasons why I'm not crazy about paying any running back because I think I think Ray Davis could do a lot of what Cook does for you without maybe the explosiveness, and that's worth paying for. So I'm not mad about the contract. I'm also not worried about Ray Davis at all. Myself, I'm not. I mean, you feel differently about it, but I think, if anything, I'm looking for him to even improve on what he did last year. He talked last week about how he's lighter and wanted to get a little bit lighter and not have to be so much of a banger.
Me too.
So, I don't know. I love the Bills' running back room, and nothing I've seen in the preseason really changes that for me.
Yeah, listen, I mean, if there's concern, it's just that it hasn't really lit it up. I think I maybe expected him to look the part of a guy that could potentially
be a number one even.
Right, yeah. And it just hasn't been that way. But again, no shot at some of these guys at the bottom of the roster, especially on the offensive line. But, these guys are going to be Jake Fromm's assistant at Pacific whatever, Northwest Mutual. I don't know, one of these. That's the reality, is these bottom of the roster guys, especially offensive line there is probably no position with a more dramatic drop-off after your starters than offensive line. That goes across the league.
Right. Matt is next up. Hi, Matt. Thanks for calling. You're on WGR.
Hey, Bulldog. I think anyone who's upset about the preseason game last night too much needs to probably step back off the ledge. I mean, this is second winningest team in all four major sports over the last 6 years, next to Kansas City Chiefs. So, I don't think really it doesn't really matter to me what they do in the preseason. It's pretty much irrelevant. It kind of reminded me of the game last year they played against the Bears where they got their butt kicked. But I think this year especially, probably Ben Johnson actually game planned some to try and build some hype and excitement for the team at home. So, I just don't really care about what happens during the preseason. Honestly, I don't really care what happens in the regular season either, because unless Allen gets hurt, they're walking to an AFC East title this year. And so the only thing that matters to me is they get right for the playoffs, and their defense actually shows up when it matters in the playoffs. That's the only thing that matters to me this year.
All right, Matt. Thank you. Appreciate the more the moderate, even voice of reason type of deal there. Although I don't know, Nate came in hot. I'm not that freaked out. I mean, I'm doing a show here. I'm steering a show. I am worried about Bishop.
Yeah.
And I don't know, that's most of it for you too, I think.
80%, 90%. And it's less about Bishop and more about them not
doing anything beyond
insulating
Bishop.
themselves from this thing potentially happening. To me, there was a little too much blind confidence that Cole Bishop, right from the end of last year, it's going to be Cole Bishop. We know we got to get better than the other guy. We're going to bring him back anyways. But in a lot of ways, you could do a lot worse than DeMar Hamlin. Don't get me wrong. But the blind faith in a player that will be, again, I want to go back to how I set the stage, which was the first two moves this organization, this regime made, really, but even before Bean got here.
Right.
It was going in to get two safeties that were the face of your franchise defensively for their first 7 years together. If it was so important to establish that out of the gate, I'm just a little surprised there wasn't more done to insulate themselves from potentially him being a bust. If he's a bust, they're punting to next year on safety. Again.
I think that's right.
Yeah.
I do. I think that's right. 803-0550 is the number. We'll hit up a timeout here. More to come. Nate Geary in for Mike. I am the Bulldog. You are listening to WGR.
Sports. It's Mike Schopp. He's Bulldog. Talking sports. Call him on the telephone. Toss that bad Bulldog a bone. Bulldog. Talking sports. Yeah. On WGR.
All right. A heave and a hoe and away we go.
Sports Radio 550.
I don't want to hear me from 30 years ago. Thank you very much.
Sports. It's Mike Schopp. He's Bulldog. Talking sports. Call him on the telephone. Toss that bad Bulldog a bone. Bulldog. Talking sports. On WGR.
All right. A heave and a hoe and away we go.
Sports Radio 550.
I don't want to hear me from 30 years ago. Thank you very much.
Sports. It's Mike Schopp. He's Bulldog. Talking sports. Call him on the telephone. Toss that bad Bulldog a bone. Bulldog. Talking sports. On WGR.
All right. A heave and a hoe and away we go.
Sports Radio 550.
I don't want to hear me from 30 years ago. Thank you very much.
Sports. It's Mike Schopp. He's Bulldog. Talking sports. Call him on the telephone. Toss that bad Bulldog a bone. Bulldog. Talking sports. On WGR.
All right. A heave and a hoe and away we go.
Sports Radio 550.
I don't want to hear me from 30 years ago. Thank you very much.
Sports. It's Mike Schopp. He's Bulldog. Talking sports. Call him on the telephone. Toss that bad Bulldog a bone. Bulldog. Talking sports. On WGR.
All right. A heave and a hoe and away we go.
Sports Radio 550.
I don't want to hear me from 30 years ago. Thank you very much.
Sports. It's Mike Schopp. He's Bulldog. Talking sports. Call him on the telephone. Toss that bad Bulldog a bone. Bulldog. Talking sports. On WGR.
All right. A heave and a hoe and away we go.
Sports Radio 550.
I don't want to hear me from 30 years ago. Thank you very much.
Sports. It's Mike Schopp. He's Bulldog. Talking sports.
Fella stopped me on the street last night. Said everything's alright.
Even on
roller coaster, make it through the day. I'm right. It seems a meal ticket is gone, but life goes on. I could never imagine something better. Yeah, right. Now you're cooking on high heat in the middle of the street. Roller coaster, take me to a better time. Let's go. All sing your high line with the roller coaster of life.
Goes on here on Monday afternoon. I am the Bulldog. Mike Schopp has the day off. Nate Geary sitting in for Mike. 803-0550. Mike will be back tomorrow. Let's go to Mike right now on the phone. Mike, you're next up here on WGR. Thanks for calling.
Hey guys, I'm concerned about the safety position just like everybody else. Is Justin Simmons a viable option? They can't roll into the season with DeMar Hamlin and Cole Bishop. They've got to fix that, or we're going to be getting torched, and it'll probably start week 1.
The Justin Simmons thing, we talked a little. Thank you for the call, Mike. We talked a little bit about this earlier. Nate over here, I think during the game, was tweeting pictures of him praying or something. I don't even know. I would like to know if A, we think he's a scheme fit, first of all, and B, how concerned are you that he's got anything left? Like whenever a guy that has he's been a name player, like I think most average football fans, I shouldn't say that, more than if you're above average interest in the league, it's a guy. He's a name you've heard. When a guy like that is out there at this time of the year as a free agent, I always wonder, like, does the league just generally think he's got nothing left? So, I don't know, I walk into the dealership, Nate, and I'm looking for a safety, and you are the salesman. Sell me a Justin Simmons.
2 years ago, he was an AP All-Pro, 2023 season.
You're off to a great start.
He signed last year in Atlanta, who decided to go young. They drafted 2 safeties. So, a really good one in Xavier Watts, too.
Yep.
I would agree with you that at this point, there is a flaw that you will be dealing with any player you sign today on August 18th or until training camp. Mm-hmm. He had 2 interceptions last year. I was going up on Pro Football Focus just to kind of see, where does he rank among safeties? A 60 overall grade, which ranked 114th out of 171 qualifying safeties. Not the best. 85th out of 171 in coverage.
Not the best.
Not the best. There are 2.
Doing some lifting there, but yeah. Okay.
There are 2 safeties.
Yeah, right. Sure.
So, I mean, let's see. Did he start 16 games last year? I mean, can we be there with him? Did he start a lot of games? It just ultimately didn't go the best. For Justin Simmons, this is a player. I mean, literally 2 years ago was a AP second year. I mean, second team. That's still a very good player. I can't imagine, short of some kind of dramatic injury, that it was a big 16 games last year. So, I mean, I know Atlanta's defense wasn't great. Mm-hmm. So maybe that has something to do with it. But I'll tell you this: wasn't Ryan Nielsen? Was he Atlanta last year, or was he Jacksonville last year?
Ooh, I got to get the timeline on that. I just looked him up the other day because I wanted to ask Sean McDermott about him, and now I don't have it committed in memory, so I don't know if their paths.
Jacksonville last year.
Jacksonville last year. Okay.
So.
Well, I was going to say if that would be, you got a coach in here who was with Atlanta last year, he would know.
Yeah.
But all in all, I guess where I get to with Justin Simmons, or really anybody that it's kind of too late in the process, I think, to get a game-changing player at the position. Like, we were talking about Kyle Duggar, the safety from the Patriots, who apparently this week in week 2 was playing into the fourth quarter. And I don't know what's happened there. He signed a 4-year, $58 million contract 1 year ago. Oof. They don't even have a logical out of his contract until next offseason. A $19 million dead cap hit if they cut him. So I don't see that being a viable option for the Bills.
No,
at that number,
no.
He's got like a
no. You're not. Yeah, you're not trading for that contract, and they're probably not releasing him with that contract.
His cap hit is $15 million this year in 2025. It goes to 17 and 18 the next 2 years. His dead cap, if they were to cut him, is $23 million this year. They have the space to do it. If they want to do it, they could do it.
Right.
I mean, they got nothing but space. Right. But yeah, Listen, again, it's why I looked back and I thought, man, there were the kid from Penn State, Xavier Watts. There were some names. I know you like the kid from South Carolina. I like Malachi Stark. Like, there were names in this draft in the first 3 rounds where I thought, maybe they should take a flyer and just have another young, developing guy back there. And they chose to draft 4 off defensive linemen, essentially. So
we'll keep the conversation going on the Bills front here. Sal Capaccio, his thoughts on last night's loss in Chicago as we continue. Nate Geary's in for Mike. I'm the Bulldog, and this is WGR.